Hello everyone, and welcome to the fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto become a ultimate ninja and fall in love with Tayuya, femkyuubi, kaguya, and temari. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Just when things were starting to look up, said a mysterious figure sitting on top of a large skyscraper while looking down into the carnage that was shown on the streets below. You would think that people would be smart enough to listen to the military when shit like this happens. I guess there are a few who don't really understand what's going on, right, Kurama? Said the figure while looking up at the sky. The figure heard a loud snort coming from his companion. Of course you flea bags would do something as stupid as that, replied Kurama in a bored tone. Of course this would be boring after seeing it happen over and over for a few days. Some idiot would walk over to a place that they are not allowed to be and then bam, they get eaten and mutated. It was a horrible sight to most, but to the mysterious man and his companion it was an everyday occurrence. Kurama, how much longer do you think that this will last? Asked the man. With the help that you provide for those flea bags IWOU. LD say a week, replied Kurama with a grunt. Naruto, I think we should leave now that the city can help itself and resume your training in the ninja arts, said Kurama in wise tone that made the mysterious man, now named Naruto, laugh like he was being ticked by feathers all over. Gee Kurama, you sound like you're old and wise. I get the old part but wise. As if ha, replied Naruto, who was clutching his stomach from the thought of Kurama wise. Due to this he missed Kurama's angry roar from within his mind. However, Kurama will get his payback against his blonde-haired Jinchuriki. Shut up, brat. I am the mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune. The one that can destroy mountains with but a swish of one of my 9 almighty tails. Said Kurama with a puffed-out chest. Yeah, heard it before, Rama. It's kind of getting old, don't you think, you mountain-sized carpet? Replied Naruto while pondering what Kurama had said. He was right, though. He should get back to his shinobi training. While he may be advanced in most of the subjects, he could get better. After all, there is no limit he can hit anymore thanks to the past events that led up to this point. With a sigh, Naruto pondered to the most occurring events that had lead up to this point in time. Flashback. We find ourselves looking at a young spiky blonde-haired boy with crimson tips sitting down on his bed reading a book about Advan CED Fuinjutsu studies and a book about elemental chakra natures. The boy himself was about 7 with a height of 3 feet 8 inches, around about the height of most boys his age. He currently wore a short sleeved blue shirt with a matching pair of Anbu pants. This boy was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the 4th Hokage, and his wife Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto was also the Jinchuriki of the Kurama, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Well, the young part anyway. Naruto was born on October 10th, a day when something terrible happened, and the terrible event was the freeing of Kurama from his previous host Kushina Uzumaki. Due to this event, Naruto and his twin sister Mito had to become the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, Kurama, to save their home village. It was also the last day of the 3rd Hokage's life, as he had performed a self-sacrificing sealing technique which would summon the Shinigami to seal the Kyuubi while doing so that the 4th Hokage didn't have to, so he could live with his newborn children and wife. After the sealing, the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had announced that both his son and daughter had held the Kyuubi, while also telling them that Naruto held the young part of Kurama's chakra while his sister held Kurama's Wyan chakra. Because of this, Mito had become Konoha's princesses, while Naruto had become a demon to everyone in the village. Why would people do that? Well, because Yang is the darker and the more evil part of Yin and Yang, so people believed that the demon had taken over Naruto's body at a young age, and due to this he is considered a demon in their eyes. Now Naruto was by far demonic. He was a boy with an amazing intellect that had shown since he was 2. How was this shown? Well, you notice it pretty easily when a 2-year-old walks and then does the tree climbing exercise right after learning to walk. However, even though he was considered, if anyone noticed him, a genius prodigy that would only appear once a few thousand years, he was pushed away by everyone, including his family. Heck, his family was even worse. They ignored him at every turn and only focused on his sister, who in turn also turned into a bitch to Naruto and took every opportunity to bully him or insult him. Now while this would break anybody else, Naruto was one of a kind. He would not ever get broken. He would never break his nindo in never giving up and protecting every precious person he could. He had created his nindo off his own perception of things. Now back to the boy reading his book. Damn, this is boring, thought Naruto as he had already read everything in this book multiple times to make sure he never decreases in his fuinjutsu knowledge. Sigh. I wonder if Itachi ni and Shisui ni is back from their mission, though Naruto as he hopped of his bed and heading downstairs towards the front door. Now the Namikaze house that Naruto currently lived in was a modest house. It had 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms and 4 showers. The house also had an onsen in the back along with a training field used to train in secret due to seals protecting everything in the training field. Once again modest, compared to most other clans who had owned massive estates that could fit hundreds if not thousands of people in them. As Naruto was opening the door, he heard his father and mother congratulating Mito for getting the first stage of the Rasengan complete, while he on the other hand had completed the technique, even adding his affinities into it. That's right, affinities as in multiple. Naruto himself had an affinity to all 5 main nature affinities, which are wind, water, fire, lightning and finally earth. However, while he had all 5 affinities, it was at varying levels. His wind release and water were very powerful. His wind affinity allowed him to hover, and with more training, the ability to glide or even fly. While his water affinity lets him draw water from the atmosphere like the second Hokage Tobirama Senju, although not at his level. Next came his lightning affinity. While not as powerful as his water and wind affinity, his lightning affinity was strong enough for Naruto to produce red and black lightning. He found this out when his lightning affinity had started to split, then becoming different colors with different effects. The red lightning was more faster and looser than the black lightning, which meant that his red lightning could be used in area attacks, while his black lightning was more powerful and compact, making it good for single or 2-on-1 battles. Now his fire and earth affinities was around the same level, where if Naruto trained enough, his last 2 elements could reach his lightning affinities level and maybe his water and wind affinities level. With a sigh, Naruto walked off to training ground 44, or as most people call it, the Forest of Death. When Naruto reached the training field, he could see 2 figures battling it out with fire jutsu and rapid taijutsu techniques. Now this is what got Naruto's blood pumping. A full-on shinobi spar or fight. Now Naruto understands what shinobi do, but he still couldn't help himself when watching 2 high-grade shinobi duke it out. Once he had finished his thoughts, the 2 figures appeared in front of him. They were Itachi Uchiha and Shisui Uchiha, elite members of the Uchiha clan in Naruto's unofficial Ni-sans. Itachi ni, Shisui ni, shouted Naruto as he spear tackled them into a massive hug. Truly Naruto ked Shisui and Itachi the most in the village. However, that's only because they were the only ones who had given him the chance to prove himself. Itachi cracked a small smile while hugging his unofficial brother. He truly didn't see why or how people could think of him as a demon. Hello Naruto-kun, did you finish your training for your special gift? Itachi asked, and when he saw Naruto nod his head, his smile grew. Hey! Screamed Shisui, tired of being ignored. When he had got Naruto's attention, he had a full-on smile on his face. Naruto, did you do my training along with Itachi's schedule? Asked Shisui with a smile. He knew no matter how hard he made training for Naruto, he would always finish it and do more than he is expected to do. It's what makes it fun to train Naruto. Of course I did. Hisui ni, who do you think you're talking to? Said Naruto with his chest puffed out in pride. Oh really? Said Shisui with an evil grin growing, which in turn made Naruto's spine shiver at the look. Okay then Naruto, since my training seems too easy, you have to triple it along with having resistance seals at level 20 feet, said Shisui with a shit-eating grin on his face. Even Itachi paled a little. Having to do Shisui training was hell. Doing it 3 times more and having level 20 resistance seals was just too hard to accomplish. Hell, even Itachi Uchiha thought so himself. However, he also knows Naruto's attitude, so he knows what's going to happen. Fine, your training was easy anyway. I bet you I can finish your training in a day, Shisui, said Naruto with a finger pointing at Shisui in a dramatic way. Fine, let's make a bet. You do it in a day and I'll help you with the Shunshin so you can get it to my level. But if you lose, you must wear a pink toto for a week while reading ICHA, said Hisui with a grin. No way was Naruto accept. Deal. shouted Naruto, shaking Shisui's hand. And in that day Shisui was depressed. His training was nothing but a little tearing for Naruto, and that he had to help Naruto with the Shunshin. Itachi had watched the whole thing and could only laugh because it was priceless. Now this was usually Naruto's routine: 6:30 a.m. wake up, eat and shower. 7 a.m. trainin'. Ji in Fuinjutsu and calligraphy. 8 a.m. chakra control with Kage Bushin's 10 a.m. medical chakra and Genjutsu training. 11 a.m. lunch and Kenjutsu training. 12 a.m. ninjutsu and secret training. 2 p.m. taijutsu and ninjutsu with Itachi and Shisui. 5 p.m. Fuinjutsu studies. 7 p.m. dinner and Fuinjutsu practice. 9 p.m. sleep. Naruto would repeat this schedule nearly every day of his life, and because of it he could safely say that he would be a mid-high Jonin in terms of skills and around mid-Chunin in experience, since Itachi and Shisui have many different styles due to copying their enemies' attacks and using those attacks against Naruto, so he had a good knowledge of known attacks in most subjects. But it's the next event that would lead Naruto to his new path. Flashback end. I really shouldn't really ink back to that event, mumbled Naruto as he slowly got up, showing his appearance of 5 feet 11, which was impressive at the age of 13, with muscles showing through his black skin-tight muscle shirt and black baggy pants which had been taped off at the ends, along with wearing some red and black Nike runners. Next to him sat a black jacket with hood which had red flames on the edges of the jacket and 5 bowls going in a circle along with a 6 symbols in the middle of them. The symbols were what defined Naruto, however, due to many battles since he had left Konoha, the symbols had been ruined beyond repair. With a quick little stretch of both arms and legs he blasted off his perch towards a forest that was quite far from his original position. Kurama, how much more training do you think I will need to be able to reach the power you think I need? Asked Naruto with an even tone and a straight face, as Kurama had requested that he train till he reached a level that not even the Sage of the Sea X paths had reached. It had always puzzled Naruto why Kurama wanted him to get stronger than the sage, but who wouldn't want to be that strong? 6 months and you should be ready. And as to why, well, Konoha is the next village holding the Chunin exams, right? Said Kurama with a full-faced grin, which was matched by Naruto. Ooh, good plan. Kurama, imagine the faces of everyone in Konoha when they check me out, said Naruto with a puffed-out chest while in a heroic pose. You're still a brat though, replied a bored Kurama with a shrug, which in turn made Naruto depressed, with a cloud floating G over his head, raining heavily with small bits of red lightning and black lightning sparks coming out of it. Shut up, I'm going to be the one who brings peace, you hear me? And not because of the fact you said I should, said Naruto with his nose held high in the air, which made him miss the tree he ran into. Thud. Ha 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 ha, said Kurama as he rolled on the floor on his host's mindscape, while crying tears due to laughing so hard. You son of a you *** Kurama, why the $$ and # didn't you tell me of that mother $* tree, screamed Naruto, holding his nose as he knows it had healed the second of the impact due to an abilities he had gained. Ha 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 ha, oh my god, a goddamn tree knocked the mighty Naruto Uzumaki on his ass. Ha 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 ha, laughed Kurama while using his tail's wipe the tears still spilling out of his eyes. It's not that funny, replied Naruto with his arms crossed and a pout on his face as he looked at the now broken tree. He had to admit the powers he had gained through his travels were the best, especially his black light virus ability, which he had gotten after leaving and traveling past the elemental nations. Flashback. Captain, the ship is getting destroyed, shouted a sailor while dodging flying debris which had been torn off the ship. Well lads, we had done better than most, but looks like we aren't going any further since this is the last few moments of our lives, said the captain in a bitter tone as he looked at each of his men. However, he had noticed the small blonde-haired kid start swimming towards the storm and slowly disappearing in to the clouded winds, never to be seen again, or so he thought. Damn it, Kurama, is this seriously the only way to get through the storm? Asked Naruto as he had been swimming through the storm for the past 3 hours and it didn't look like he was getting out of the barrier anytime soon. Kid, we are close, just about. Now. Dive under, said Kurama as Naruto followed his instructions, only to find himself sitting on a large amount of sand and a lot of weird looking things that had 4 circles and a body. and massive building that he had never though were possible to be able to create. All in all, it was breathtaking. "Kurama, where are we?" asked Naruto in a whisper only due to the amount of awe he had currently going through him. "We are outside of the elemental nations, which is in a dim ancient seal along with a barrier seal set up by the sage of the six paths," said Kurama in an even tone, but even he was amazed what he is witnessing through his host's eyes. "That's just amazing. This is amazing. I can't believe that I," said Naruto only to be caught off guard by something hitting him on his head. So much for his skills, although he was awed, which he had blamed his dropped guard on. "Huh, what is this blackish thing?" asked Naruto while watching the black goo thing just sitting on his hand. Kurama, is it me or is it being absorbed into me?" asked Naruto with a straight face. "Seems so. Let me take a look at it." A couple of minutes later, Kurama had finally spoken. "The goo is a mutated virus that is meant to turn all things into a mutant zombie of some sort that would follow he orders of the queen, or king, while attacking anything else that is not a mutant zombie. However, you seem to be absorbing it and being able to control it, which is surprising, although you should be blacking out soon due to the rapid changes occurring due to the goo strengthening your body here, so I will see you in a bit later." And with that, Naruto fell face first onto a side bench which he would wake up to for the next few days. Flashback end. "I got to admit, thanks to the blacklight virus, my training had taken to new levels along with doing the added bonus of infusing the blood that had been injected into my bloodstream to kill me, but you got to admit it's ironic who they had chosen to try kill me when the blood didn't match up to any of my blood records," said Naruto with a shit-eating grin on his face. It had been a definite surprise to him whose blood had been injected into him to try and kill him through diseases because of the not matching blood. Safe to say he was extremely happy whose blood he had absorbed into himself. Kurama had a shit-eating grin showing his massive fangs that would make most, if not all, men shit themselves at the irony of the situation. After all, he blood of the only two men aside from the sage of the six paths that could control him was now a part of his host. And now because of it there will literally no such thing as a barrier to stop Naruto from becoming the greatest there ever will be. Chapter 2. Son of a bitch, shouted Naruto with anime tears pooling down his face. The reason for this, Kurama, though it would be a good idea pumping massive amounts of his chakra into Naruto's newly made resistant and gravity seals, which in turn max the seals to the maximum strength. What's worse is that Naruto had a resistant and gravity seal on each of his arms, legs and torso. Now add in the fact that gravity doubles the gravity of the seal each and every time it is upped, and then add the resistance seals that make moving look like a snail's pace each and every time it is activated. Now this would not be as bad if Naruto had used the normal gravity and resistance seals, which had a cap of 10x the amount of gravity and resistance a normal seal does. Now since Naruto is a high-quality seal maker, he had created his own gravity and resistance seal that had went to a level of 100x normal gravity and resistance. Currently the fourth Hokage is only on gravity level 4x and resistance of 6x. Now because of Kurama, Naruto is currently in a massive crater with broken bones and torn ligaments along with multiple fractures and injuries, while also wearing his gravity and resistance seal at level 100x the normal amount. This brings us to Kurama laughing his furry ass off and Naruto drowning in his own anime-style tears which had filled up half the crater he was in. "Screw you, Kurama," shouted Naruto while trying to swim out of his own tears and onto soft safe land where he could prominently pass out without a care in the world. "Ha ha ha. Ah well, Naruto, you know that in a few days you will be able to adjust to the weight. Because of the blacklight virus always evolving along with me speeding up the process, so if you would kindly get back to training, we could get back the elemental nations a few weeks before the Chunin exams and go see her." Nissan said Kurama with a slight grin as soon as he had mentioned Nissan's Naruto RTED to move and walk around, determined to adjust to his new weight and resistance so that he could meet his Nissan's before having to learn more ninjutsu and genjutsu techniques. The reason for his is while Naruto has near perfect control of his chakra and elemental affinities, which had gotten even stronger, he had no techniques since he had not copied his father's library and instead only learned the Rasengan along with adding his affinities to it. Because of this he was really lacking in techniques in both ninjutsu and genjutsu, although now that he thought of it he might learn Ikal Jutsu just so he could help Kurama heal him when he gets injured, even though Blacklight and Kurama could make a decapitated head regrow at a rate of a few minutes, but that's only if he had enough biomass from consuming either animals or people to regrow limbs. Kurama, what do you think we should do about these fiends you told me about, said Naruto in a relaxed tone. The reason for this was after the whole Manhattan incident he had traveled and learned multiple cultures and traditions of different countries and states. It was mind-boggling for Naruto to learn so many different cultures and beliefs. Although his most favorite was the monks he had met on a hill near Japan, the monks themselves had trained him in the ways of peace and kai, which was the physical part of chakra. It took a while to separate his chakra, and because of this he had gained new abilities from it he learned. Due to his strong kai and spiritual energy he could use the energies separate from each other, so instead of just chakra he also learned how to use kai and spirit energy, which he had named Reiatsu. While training with all three forms he found that kai was more powerful but not very controlled, while on the other hand Reiatsu was controlled but not as powerful. With this in mind, chakra was the one with the most potential because it could be strong and controlled to a point where kai and Reiatsu don't even compare. Although kai allowed him to fly and Reiatsu allowed him to sense anyone in a few miles, he knew he was only scraping the surface of his new abilities. Don't own Dragon Ball or Bleach, only using certain aspects. But currently his problems were with what Kurama had called fiends, which to him were what true demons would look like. He had faced a few of them along with what appear to be followers. He guessed the followers were seriously ninjas with a fetish of spider symbols all over their cloths and probably their bodies if he had to guess. But unlike ninjas in the elemental nations, these were true ninjas, stealthy until seen. Then they were really good opponents, although they used weapons like katanas, scythes and many other weapons he would think would be impossible to use. This was one of the reasons why he had taken to learn Kenjutsu as well. His sword was special though, as it was made from his biomass. Originally it was a massive blade that was connected to his arms. But it was way too big to be used with finesse, so he had combined his biomass with a katana he had found on his journey to make the most unbreakable sword on the planet, and best part, he could use his affinities to strengthen his weapon even more. This was proven when he had defeated multiple purple fiends during his training near the mountain of Mount Fuji. Although they seemed to have stopped, he had a feeling that the beings resided in the mountain, which had currently brought a thought in his head that he should investigate. Even though his new seals were weighing him down, he felt that he would still fight an army of those fiends and make it out on top. So Kurama, what do you think? I mean, if they attacked me they could have also attacked others and possibly killed them. I don't know if I should check or not, so what do you think, Furball? Asked Naruto with a serious and slightly joyful tone that he had added at the end with the Furball comment. Shut up you brat, I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. You are nothing compared to me. You got that, you little meatbag, said Kurama with a snarl, but that was ruined by his happy expression on his face. He knew Naruto could fight him toe-to-toe and possible win, and that was with his Tai Jutsu and Kenjutsu. Even though Naruto could use his bloodlines which he had gained from the infused blood, he knew Naruto would never do that to him, even if it was to win a fight. That's what Kurama liked about him. He was always fair to everyone and gave them chances, a change that Kurama took to become his friend, even though he was the darker half of his body. He still knew even if Naruto didn't try become friends with him, he would have had a partnership with him later on. It brought a little sincere smile to his face, although it went away when he heard Naruto's response. Huh. As if, Kurama, you know I can kick your ass while I have my eyes closed and with my arms restricted. I bet I could kick your ass even with one finger, you overgrown fleabag. Hell, I bet you gained you title of the Great Kyuubi no Kitsune cause of your wet dog smell. Ha 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 ha, replied Naruto with tears streaming down his face as he had one-upped Kurama, which he regret. After Kurama gave him the mother of all headaches, ungrateful brat. I could beat you while sleeping. Well, anyways, regarding the fiends, I think you should check them and consume them to gain a bit more understanding of what's going on, said Kurama with an even tone. Even he had no clue what was going on, but he was getting curious about it. Okay, let's go, Kurama, shouted Naruto as he blasted from his little training ground at the base of the mountain, destroying many trees with his chakra-enhanced speed due to his original speed being weighted down due to gravity and joints restricted from his seals. But he had to come at a stop when he almost crashed into an old man who was bald with fuzzy white eyebrows and white chin hair that had reached his chest and the distinct clothing of a travel Merchant that not a lot of people would see nowadays. Hey old man, are you okay? Asked Naruto with a hand sticking out for the old man who fell due to the wind speed made by Naruto as he had stopped. I'm quite fine, young man. What are you doing here though? It's quite dangerous up that mountain, said the old man with a concerned look on his face. Hell, he didn't expect anyone to be here apart from a ninja with the name of Ryu Hayabusa. Don't own once again. However, he had seen him only a few hours ago when he went to deliver the dragon gem to enhance his dragon blade. Oh sorry old man, but I had been fighting these purple things. I think they are could fiends. At this the old man swallowed hard and an expression of seriousness had appeared. However, Naruto was busy talking to notice, and I have had this weird feeling that the fiends had been living in that mountain, so I was planning to travel into the mountain and check it out, said Naruto while the old man had slowly begun to draw out a hidden Tonto blade from his pack ready to fight the boy who could possibly be working for the archfiend. Old man, put your blade away. I can sense you doing it even though your emotions say you're conflicted and confused, replied Naruto with an even tone. He could feel the old man's emotions and his Reiatsu and Kai levels, and for an old man he was really strong, well for people outside of the elemental nations. How did you know that? I had spent many perfecting silent kill techniques, said the old man, flabbergasted that he had been found out. He had completely missed out the fact the boy in front of him could sense emotions. It's a gift, you could say. Anyway, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Senju Uchiha, said Naruto with a grin. He had figured out since he had the blood of two people from the Uchiha and Senju clans, he might as well use the names. After all, he was technically related to them now. Naruto Uzumaki Senju Uchiha, quite a long name, my boy. My name is Muramasa, said the old man, now named Muramasa, with a slight bow, which he regretted when his hip cracked. My back, screamed Muramasa as he was holding his hip in pain. Naruto simply walked up to him and transferred some of Kurama's chakra to heal his entire body. Muramasa couldn't explain the feeling. He was in pain a second ago, now he was feeling at peace and feeling like he was a 20-year-old. The first thing he noticed was that the boy Naruto had placed his hand on his back while releasing an energy outside his body. It was similar to Kai, but at the same time wasn't. It was better. But sooner or later the feeling went away when Naruto moved from his position to stand back in front of him. Hey old man, you feeling better now? I had used some of my energy to strengthen your body and heal it to a level where you won't feel any pain, although I would advise you against doing anything strange activity from now on. Traveling is fine and all, just not skydiving or omething, said Naruto with a shrug. He had seen quite a lot in his time here when traveling Europe and Asia. Although Australia was a fun place to relax, it was quiet and had a lot of places to camp. Why boy, I don't know what you had done or how you had done that, but thank you, said Muramasa with a sincere smile. The boy in front of him was special. Boo What the hell? Said Naruto, looking up to what looked like a dragon with extra limbs. He had seen the old man's face when he saw the beast and he became saddened. Old man, keep safe, I fight that thing. With that, Naruto ran at the speed of light and delivered a powerful cranium kick. When he had reached the thing, it was truly the coolest looking thing apart from Kurama he had ever seen. It looked so badass. Then he had noticed a dude in all black on the floor with a woman helping him up. However, he was cut from his ponderings by a big ass tail aiming to hit him into the ground. A dash to the left, he had landed on the beast's back. His dash ability was from his blacklight along with glide, which with his wind affinity made it seem like he could fly, although it was hard. The most he could do with his wind affinity was glide, but since his blacklight abilities allowed him to do that anyway, so there was no point in wasting his chakra, even though because of his control and it would take a stupid amount of constant S-rank jutsu to even waste even a quarter of what he had. Oh look, the tail again, so original. I think Kurama actually owns that since he has 9 tails to swipe at people. So this dragon beast thingy got nothing on Kurama. Oh no you don't, you overgrown lizard. With that, Naruto jumped high into the sky, creating his first original jutsu, Futon, Rasen Shuriken. With that, he hurled the spiraling shuriken of death into the back of the massive beast. Time to finish this. With that, he unsealed his bio sword and slashed straight down, splitting the dragon into 2 while also absorbing the beast into himself. Due to this, his bio sword had changed into a sword similar to the blade that the black ninja dude had across from him. The main differ ence of the blade though was that his blade's color was crimson with a black outline at the edges of the blade with a cross guard of a dragon spiraling around the blade. The handle also changed. Before it was just a black cloth, now it was a crimson cloth, this black diamonds going down the handle. It truly looked amazing. Hell, he could feel the power of a archfiend dragon crossbreed in the sword. How ever before it was a being of pure hatred and evil, now it seemed like a wise and controlled being. Since being absorbed into the blade, it was a nice feeling for some strange reason. Well, it was until He-Man started to attack him for no sudden reason. Although Naruto could tell he would get his ass kicked in a weapons fight, he would still destroy the man with his pinky finger if he bothered. Could you please stop attacking me? First the old man and now some random dude who was getting his ass kicked started to attack. Man, people today, who are you? Said the man in a cold serious tone. It was kind of badass how he looked and sounded. Maybe he could wear a similar outfit. Yo, name's Naruto Uzumaki Senju Uchiha, #1 badass and the ultimate ninja. Said Naruto with a puffed out chest, which he lost soon because be heard giggling from the woman before that stopped the ninja's battle instantly. Naruto, because it was depressing, his badass moment got ruined by giggling. The man in black, because it was just stupid. With a sigh the man lowered his weapon. My name is Ryu Hayabusa, ninja of the dragon lineage, said Ryu with an even tone. Then he noticed that the archfiend's corpus was gone and that meant he could finally go home and help his village. Thank you for your assistance, but I must return to my village to help with repairs, said Ryu with a light tone and due to his mask and headgear an unreadable expression. Sure, also if you pass by this village near a couple of mountains about 100 kilometers southeast, can you tell them I'm okay? I think it was called the Hidden Village. I don't know why, but yay, it took a while to repair though. It seemed like a hurricane and fire hit it. Well, see ya, said Naruto walking away with his hands in his pockets while about to fall face first of east side of a mountain so he could start his trek home. Wait, said Ryu with a surprisingly pleading tone. Was there a blind man called Joe? Said Ryu. Depending on Naruto's answer would depend on what he would do. Yeah, he used to be blind. While I was there I decided to heal everyone there. I healed his eyes and most of the villagers' illnesses and disabilities. It wasn't that hard, said Naruto with a shrug. It really wasn't hard with Kurama's chakra. If that's the case, I would like for you to come to my village and learn the ways of ninpo for your actions here and for helping my village rebuild and if you did help my father with his blindness, I give you my gratitude. Do you accept? Asked Ryu with an even tone. However, anyone could hear the joy in his voice knowing that his village is fine. Should I, Kurama? Asked Naruto. While he did have time to waste, he wanted to see his Nisans, but learning this ninpo sounded interesting and maybe learning kenjutsu and weapons from this man would be a very good thing. While Naruto owned him in nearly everything, the one thing he couldn't hope to beat the man in front of him was with weapons. It was amazing how good he was. I think you should. This could be another trump card, and with your dujutsu it should be easy learning them and you can practice them while on the move. Maybe even learning how to use a bow would be good. Imagine a chakra and fire arrow would easily destroy quite a lot of things, and with wind it would do massive amounts of damage that not much could hope to do, said Kurama with a wise tone and interested posture. For ONCE, the lazy fox wasn't asleep. Good point, Kurama. Thanks for the advice, replied Naruto through their link. Sure Ryu, I would love to, but how are we going to get there? Asked a curious Naruto until he heard rotter blades and the woman from before flying it. Get on, you two. Next stop, Hidden Village. With that both Ryu and Naruto appeared on the flying machine which had started flying towards the Hayabusa village. Time skip 7 weeks. Wait for it. Dive now, said Kurama while Naruto once again dived under the water to find himself on land. And in that situation Naruto had announced his return. Naruto Uzumaki Senju Uchiha, the first ever Dragon Phoenix Sage, has returned. Chapter 3. What the hell? Said Naruto while blinking at what he was seeing. It looked like an execution, but no one was supportive of it. I wonder what's going on. Walking up from behind the large group he heard some mummers saying, no, not the hero of waves. Or, why him, he saved us all. And a bit of, damn Gato, that filthy bastard. All from that Naruto knew this wasn't right. He knew that the man being held up right now was innocent and the one holding the execution was the one in wrong, so, as Naruto Uzumaki, he won't let it happen. Hey midget bastard, screamed Naruto, drawing the attention of everyone there along with Gato with saying the supposed crimes of the man at the execution stake. After the scream, everyone stopped and looked to the one who had said it, only to see a boy about 13 to 14 who was about 5 feet 11 with spiky blonde hair with crimson-colored tips, wearing a black hoodie with red lines going through out the whole jacket. Looks like design Kurama's chakra mode, just not the actual transformation. However, when the red lines go to his stomach, it looks like there is an eradicate design on his stomach of a spiral with a lot squiggles surrounding it, along with two pointy fang-like things pointing down towards the ground. His pants were simpler with just plain black pants that reach his ankle and the top part of the shoes he is currently wearing, which would be his original Nikes of mainly black with red. All in all, he looked like someone who was just badass from just his clothing. However, had to get this execution out of the way and take control of this place before dawn. Who said evil was easy? Then he remembered what the brat had said. What did you call me? Kill the stupid brat now. Whoever does get $1 million right here right now, screamed Gato while red in the face due to the anger he currently had at the stupid little brat. You heard the boss, let's kill the fucker. SC. Reamed a bandit who had charged in thinking he was getting $1 million in a few seconds. How wrong. To Naruto, the bandits charging at him looked like they were walking at a snail's pace. No, seriously, without his dujutsu this was pathetic. I mean, seriously, he could fall asleep and then kick their asses. Oh well. With a tilt of his head he saw a blade fly past him, which he chooses to ignore in favor of kneeing the bandit in the gut. What happened next surprised him. The bandit seriously flew back at the speed of sound due to the strength of the hit Naruto had given him. Because of this, that single and it flew into his colleges and killed them all due to the impact. Everyone just stared at that. This little kid, even though he was quite tall, need a man with such strength that he killed him in high colleges due to the speed he was sent flying. It was amazing and kinda scary. What if he wanted to work for Gato? Some people started to cry. I mean, who would turn down easy money? No one. That's who. You midget bastard, let the guy go before I tear your goddamn head off, said Naruto with bored tone. I mean, seriously, his first fight he killed a whole group of bandits with one strike. He was holding back on. Seriously, this sucks. Unless the people here think you deserve it, said Naruto in an afterthought. Because of this, Gato started sweating. This fucking kid killed all his hired muscle in 10 seconds. What the hell did he do to deserve this? Get me as an author, laughing face. Wait kid, how about a deal? Said Gato with a slight grin, knowing no one turned him down on his offers. At this, the people of Wave started holding their children closer while the man at the stake was looking down at the kid with a slight smile, which a few people noticed. If you work for me, I will pay you 10,000 yen an hour. 1 yen equals $1 just to make it easier, and as a bonus, if you kill this man brutally, I will give you some slaves to please yourself. What do you say? Said Gato with shit-eating grin on his face. Not way someone would turn down. Hi. The hell you take me for, asshole? I'm not going to do shit for you. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I will always help the ones in need, and I will always protect those close to me. So take your offer with you to hell, cause you just pissed me off, you asshole. Said Naruto in a pissed off tone with a hint of rage and anger in it. At that moment, the people of the Wave Street started to cry. The heavens must have sent this boy to save them. There was just no way people do this for no reason. While people were thinking these thoughts, Gato in a last-ditch effort grabbed his cane and a sword from his dead bandits and held it at Kaisa's throat in attempt at stopping the blonde-haired monster from attacking him. Step one more food closer and he dies. Said Gato, who was grinning lick. Loon, thinking he would now be safe. How wrong. Who dies? Asked Naruto from behind Gato. At this, Gato attempted at slicing Kaisa's neck. It would have worked if he was still there. At this, Gato looks up to see Kaisa and his family hugging together with tears of joy pooling down their faces. At this, Gato looked up at his soon-to-be killer, which now looked like a god with how the light illuminated him. Naruto took no time in lifting the midget up with one hand. Gato, I don't know you at all, but from the way the people here talk about you and your previous actions tell me that you are nothing but scum. But I don't believe it. At this, the crowd was dead silent. Was their new hero going to help Gato? Was him being nice all an act? They hope not. No. You are worse than scum. Trying to break families apart, crushing all their hope. No. You don't deserve to be scum because you are no longer a human, you are a sin itself that I will kill to help others. I'm not naive enough that everyone should get a second chance, however I do give everyone a second chance, but you blew it away, so sorry Gato, but your time ends now, said Naruto in a straight face. With a depressed tone he slowly lifted Gato up, who by the way was shouting angry things, and threw him in the air and bio-bombed him while also absorbing Gato's knowledge for bank statements, his slavery rings and his businesses. He probably will give most of the money Gato owns to the wave and a few businesses to wave as well. Sigh, well that's over, said Naruto in a depressed tone. He hated killing, it truly was one thing he hated with a passion, but it was a must sometimes. A few seconds after Naruto killed Gato, the people of Wave jumped up and chanted, "Hero," while grabbing Naruto and throwing him up. It truly made Naruto feel better to know that he was considered a hero here. Unlike his hometown. Flashback before Naruto left age 10. Demon, shouted a group of villagers trying to capture the Kyuubi brat. No, not their princess but the demon boy. Why? Why do you all want to hurt me? Screamed Naruto. All throughout his life he had gained only pain and betrayal. The villagers had always hurt him, always called him names and had always made life hard for him. You would think that being the son of the 4th Hokage would help him out, but no, even the 4th Hokage and his wife didn't help Naruto. To them Naruto was a failure in both a son and likely ninja, although they haven't even trained Naruto, thus they don't know how far ahead Naruto is truly from Mito in everything, and the kicker is they ignore the fact he gets beaten up. Hell, they don't even care. Then the betrayal of the Ichiraku family. Naruto always thought that he was welcomed there until he found out they put poison in his ramen. That hurt Naruto the most. All Ho's smiles while he was eating were fake, and they truly were smiling for his death due poison. It truly made him sad. Then the next people he cared about were his godparents Jiraiya and Tsunade. He didn't even try to be a godmother to him, only to Mito, but Jiraiya on the other had tried to at least talk to Naruto, but Minato the 4th Hokage always got him to tell stories to Mito about him. At least Jiraiya didn't brush him off and tried to help him. That thought brought a smile to his face. There will be people who will accept him, he just has to find them. Jiraiya was proof, he just needed to get to know him. What's the demon smiling about? Asked a villager who had brought a kitchen knife to stab the child through the stomach for killing his cousin's wife's sister niece cousin's child. He was rewarded with silence. When he had turned around, the only thing he had saw was 2 gleaming red eyes with 3 black tomo spinning slowly. After that he fell to the ground unconscious. Naruto only looked in the pair of eyes and slowly he smiled, a smile that reached his eyes, and with that Naruto ran to them and gave them a hug while both of the owners with the red eyes returned it. Yes, Naruto now knows it is possible to get people to accept him if he tries hard enough. With tears streaming down Naruto's face he slowly falls asleep hugging his new unofficial Nisans. Flashback end. A smile. Naruto was let down so his feet were touching the ground below him. With a fire in his eyes Naruto shouted a few words that made the villagers tear with joy. The wave is free. And with that, there was a party that ranged for 3 days and nights, all while celebrating a new hero of the wave. Which brings us to Naruto sleeping on a bar table with a bottle of sake held in his hand, due to his blacklight virus, which he now considers a bloodline. And Kurama, he could never get truly drunk and he can enjoy the taste of sake when he celebrates and not accidentally kill anyone while drunk. I mean, what do you get when a drunk person with strength that can shatter mountains gets pissed off and tipsy? Total destruction in general area and a few miles around it. Truly Naruto enjoys life. Excuse me, said a voice that sounded like he met his superhero for the first time. When Naruto looked down he saw a kid with a bucket hat wearing light blue overalls with a tan shirt underneath looking up at him with admiration. It truly warmed his heart that he saved this kid from feeling the pain Gato would have surely done if he hadn't helped out. Yes? Asked Naruto with a slight smile and a relaxed posture. I mean, when you are nearly indestructible it is kinda hard not to enjoy being relaxed in a safe area, even though it's not a good thing to do. You're the hero of the wave, right? Asked the K. It with hope growing in his eyes. Along with his eyes he could also tell that there was excitement in them as well. Yeah, that's me. What you need, little guy? Asked Naruto with his smile still in place. Oh. My 2-san told me how you beat up Gato and saved everyone along with the previous hero of the wave. That's so cool, and because of that you have to see what the others have done outside. Look, said the child with energy that only children could possess. Ha ha ha, okay, I'm coming, said Naruto with a small grin on his face as he stood up and left a generous tip for the bar worker before he walked out following the small child. They had walked until they had seen what was built in the middle of the small village, and what it was shocked him. It was a picture of him with his arms crossed and a smile on his face looking out toward the front of the village. It was amazing they did this in only 3 days while drunk. And the statue had been made with almost perfect detail. They even had the symbols on his back, which most had not noticed while he was beating Gato. The symbols was a 6 magatamas on the outside in a circle, then on the inside there was the kanji for the names of all the tailed beasts, going from the first tail Shukaku, Matabi, Isobu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Seiken, Chome, Gyuki, and finally his partner Kurama, and in the middle of it was 3 connected tomos. No one really knows what that means because Naruto is the only one who knew what it means. Still, it was nice seeing people doing it for him. While Naruto was pondering, he heard a few people talk about making a bridge so the IR trade could be a lot more easier and better. Listening to their points, Naruto had an idea about that. After finding out where they were making the bridge, which was at the front of the village, Naruto waited till everyone went to sleep. With everyone asleep, Naruto continued with his plan. Standing in front of an edge of a cliff, Naruto put his hands together and guided chakra into the ground. After a few seconds of waiting, hundreds of roots shot from the cliff face and connected with the other side, forcing more chakra in. He made the wood clean itself so it was flat and straight, along with Bin G shining, which signaled that the wood being used was a special type of wood that was more durable than steel and it was resistant to fire. After that, he made more roots turn into fences that surrounded the bridge to make sure it was as safe as it could get. It took around about an hour because Naruto actually had no jutsu or way to train his Mokuden chakra, so it was easier to use. Currently he was finishing up on the bridge by adding supporters underneath the bridge. Even though it wasn't necessary, it was just so the people felt safe going across the bridge. With the bridge done, Naruto decided to fall asleep while leaning against a fence he had made. Soon soft snoring was heard coming from Naruto. What he didn't know was that the small child from before was watching the whole thing moving. Away from Naruto's spot, he quickly gathered people who were still awake to get everyone else to see something Naruto did. The villagers did so in a few minutes, and when everyone saw the bridge they led and waited for the child to wake up tomorrow. When Naruto came to, the first thing he saw was that there was people surrounding him. He first thought he was under attack until he saw he was on his bridge. Hi everyone. Naruto spoke, still half asleep. He slowly got up and got into a massive group hug with nearly everyone in the wave. It was kinda cool, everyone liked him and all. Kid, said an old man by the name of Tanzuna, which Naruto heard when he was listening to the plans of the bridge yesterday. You are truly an amazing child, thank you for this, it really is amazing you would go so far for us. Complete strangers, so with 100% support everyone thanks you for your actions, said Tanzuna with a smile. He couldn't explain the feeling he was feeling. His daughter still had her husband and his grandchild still had his father. It was amazing. No problem guys, said Naruto, rubbing the back of his head with a hand while standing up. Oh, also I'm letting you all name the bridge, okay, but oh, I got to go. I only plan to stay here at least 5 days and I better get going, so thanks for all your kind words and I'll maybe one day see you all again later, said Naruto as he started to walk away until he couldn't be seen due to the forests. That is until Naruto ran back while one again rubbing his head. Oh, also the bridge is made of a special wood that is stronger than steel and along with being fireproof, so no need to add anything to it, okay, said Naruto with a big smile on his face. So see y'all later, again, said Naruto as he dashed into the forest with cage-level speed, which was once again restricted of his usual speed, but while he was running he still heard the name of the bridge and smiled. He heard the cheers of the new name. The Great Naruto Bridge. It brought more joy to him. All his life he was fighting against others, trying to make them see him for him and not the furball inside of him. No objection to being called furball. Yep, Kurama's asleep, lazy asshole at that he heard a slight grumble from his mind. Sign, oh well, summoning jutsu. And with that a poof could be heard and a small phoenix had appeared. Once the small animal saw Naruto, it nested in his hair, which miraculously didn't set his hair on fire. With a cute squeaky voice the little phoenix asked why she was here. Naruto ni-san, why did you summon me? Squeaked the little fire bird. Hey Rai, I was Wondering if you could scout ahead and tell me how far Konoha would be after that. I'll give you some sweats, okay? Said Naruto in a loving way. He truly loved his summons, both the dragons and phoenixes. They made him feel safe. Along with the grumpy fox, but he won't tell him that. Too late, heard it, said Kurama with a smirk. He also wouldn't say that he too cared for Naruto, and I heard that fuzzball, sigh. Naruto with a smile. Okay. Ni-san, ill look. Also mommy wants to see you soon, said the tiny phoenix as she flew off. Naruto smiled. He truly did love his unofficial family, and with that he set off to Konoha. Chapter 4. At the gates of Konoha, the two gate guards Izumo and Katetsu were working diligently to keep Konoha safe from her enemies. How, you may ask? That's simple. Playing poker while half asleep. That's the sight Naruto met when he walked up to the front of the gate. The two Chunin gate guards playing poker and ignoring his presence. So what does Naruto do? Prank them. Quickly applying a ninpo he learned from the shrine maidens, he changed himself into a beautiful woman he had met while in the Hayabusa village. Her name was Kasumi, dead or alive Kasumi, and she was a very developed woman who was so badass and cute it wasn't funny. Agenda Naruto. First is relieving my blood clone from his duty. I guess I don't know if he was pampered after I left or treated worse. Guess I'll soon, said Naruto while locking on his blood clone's signature. Now you might be wondering how Naruto knows the blood clone jutsu. Well, he actually learned it before leaving. He didn't want people going after him as soon as he was classified missing, kinda why he left elemental nations in the first place. He had created the clone with his personality to see how the influence of the villagers affected him. Now the clone knows he is a clone and he doesn't really have emotions itself, but he displays them for the experiment. Although since it's a blood clone, Naruto will gain its memories even if Naruto tried to ignore them. With that thought, Naruto arrived to a broken apartment, not really where he expected his clone to be. He must be there to visit someone. He walked up the stairs and finally reached the room where his clone was. The first thing that greeted him was the word demon written on top of the door itself. Expecting the worst, Naruto slowly opened the door only to tilt his head to the left, dodging a kunai that would have taken an eye out and probably kill someone if they didn't know of it in the first place. Walking into the room, Naruto heard someone crying. Walking to what looked like a bedroom, he went to the bed and flipped the cover off to only see something that brought tears in his eyes. There his clone was crying while holding onto another two people. These two people had distinguishing features that had made them stand out, but looking to why he was crying, there was the clone malnourished beyond point, looking frail and beaten, then the two people looking at his clone with tears streaming down their faces. When they finally looked up at their assailant, they gasped. There in front of them was almost a perfect copy of the boy they had been with for the past 2 months. A small hint of fear, they both asked in a defeated tone. Are you here to kill us? I know that we don't have the money to pay for this place, but we can't afford it. Please give us a chance, asked the two. Now that Naruto looked at them full on, he notices they both were girls. One of them had blackish blue hair that probably reached the top of her shoulders in a wavy manner and had soft black eyes that had the emotion of suffering in them, soft light lips quivering from sadness. She barely had anything on her person, only a loose black shirt with long pants, both in black. Her skin had a shine to it, but you could see some bones. She probably was only lightly malnourished. The other one though had blonde hair with red tips at the end, sort of like his hair. She had blue eyes, sort of like his old ones. By old ones he means before blacklight had changed his eye color. It was cooler crimson, and the dujutsu he had also gained strength due to the virus bloodline. She had red lips that too were varying like her counterpart. She too had a loose shirt, however her shirt color was green while her long loose pants were white instead of black. Finally he assesses his clone, and it was so sad it shown him how much it was a right choice to leave the village. Deciding to end the suffering, he had placed the clone under. He grabbed his head and said in a tone that made the 3 occupants on the bed relax, "Blood clone. I'm sorry for all the pain I had caused you by leaving you here, but thanks to you I can finally protect my precious people, and because of that I will remember to summon you as a clone when I get a better suited technique. So thank you, and I will promise that I will protect you, friends. Thank you and enjoy the rest you deserve." With his peace said, Naruto dispelled the clone, who had given his creator a smile, knowing his friends were safe and he could finally relax. With a poof, Naruto's clone dispelled into nothingness. Naruto quickly grabbed his head due to the memories of his clone, and the one thing he had to say was, "I'm sorry." it truly was hell on earth for the clone and Naruto reviewing all that happened to him, but the most occurring events were when his family disowned him in front of the village. Itachi and Shisui had to become Anbu for the village, and because of that Itachi, his Nisan had to give up on him. It hurt, really hurt, but Shisui, he is his true brother even with people against it. He was always there for his clone. Hell, he even took to wearing a kitsune mask in his honor. It was one of the most pleasant moments of his clone's memories. Next was finding Toki Senju and Satsuki Uchiha, the two women next to him. He saw how Naruto saved them by accident when he had found Orochimaru's hidden base, where he had found the two members in test tubes Re-80 to be tested, but due to Konoha making Orochimaru escape, they had been safe. Then next lead to his clone become really close to both of them. Seems as if his clone was dense because he could see that they both loved him easily. Whether it was from his actions as a person or from saving them, he doesn't know. Then came the three of them attending the academy. It was easy to see that his clone was sabotaged in everything, whether it was education or taijutsu. It was horrible, but even worse was that Toki and Satsuki were treated bad because Naruto was friends with them, although they hadn't gotten sabotaged. They constantly got picked on because in others saying they were nobodies who could get killed and no one would care. That pissed him off instantly. Then came the Mizuki incident, where his clone had stolen the forbidden scroll from the Hokage office and learned the Kage Bushin, which was ridiculously easy. After that, his clone had copied a few techniques that went with the Kage Bushin like the Bushin Daibakua and Shuriken and Kanaikage Bushin no Jutsu. They were great techniques, and the best part, his clone had copied every Mokuten jutsu ever made along with the elemental training for it. Then came the events of now apparently Naruto, Toki and Satsuki had to pay 5 times the cost of the actual price to live here, and because they couldn't get enough today, they were expecting to get kicked out and thrown on the streets. That saddens him to no end, so with a jump he picked both girls and placed them in a fireman position and jumped out of the house and into the forest of death. Both girls were scared a stranger killed Naruto or dispelled him and then taken them to the one training ground everyone was afraid of and then set them down. Satsuki, thinking for the worst, said he could kill them first before raping them, or at least knock them out for it, and Toki also saying things along the same line that made Naruto cry a bit. Who could do this to others? He knew it was a turd for Kurama, but seriously it wasn't right. With a sigh, Naruto sat on his ass in a cross-legged position looking ahead of him into Satsuki's eyes and Toki's. He started talking. Hi, my name's Naruto Uzumaki Senju Uchiha, formerly Namikaze. It seems, although I got an idea of what to change my last name into because it's too long. My likes are Toki Senju and Satsuki Uchiha, who I had found in Orochi Eames test tube 3 years ago. My other likes are sleeping and cuddling with you and eating ramen with the two of you. My dislikes are rapists, cold-blooded killers, perverts, and those who treat you both wrong because of who I have inside me. My dreams for the future are to become the best Hokage ever and to bring world peace like the how Jiraiya had tried to do and like how the Raikudo Sennin had done. My hobbies are spending time with you both and practicing Fuin Jutsu along with training and secretly helping you both in gardening. As soon as Naruto said his hobbies, both girls bolted him and grabbed him by the neck. How dare you? Pretending to be Naruto-kun, you bastard! Screamed Satsuki with her Sharingan activated with 2 tomos spinning wildly, with Toki summoning some roots to keep him in place. But what he said next brought them from anger to love and tears. I won't hurt my Heims no matter what. I would kill myself before I do that, Datbeo, said Naruto with a smile. Slowly Satsuki and Toki stood up and glomped him, silent tears streaming down their faces. Are you still are Naruto? Asked Toki quietly. The clone had my personality before I left. He was an exact copy and I have his memories, and I can say without a doubt I am the one you both have a massive crush on, right Satsuki-chan? Toki-can, said Naruto with a grin. He was rewarded with the 2 blushy. Standing up, he held a hand out for them both. Now would you girls like to live in a mansion or 2-story? Asked Naruto with a grin. He definitely was rich enough for it after the whole Gato thing. And now due to it, Naruto now owns a company called Uzumaki Spirals, which sells most items and has many businesses along with it, so he was pretty loaded now. But first off, we are going shopping, okay? An FIRST thing first, said Naruto with a serious expression, which sort of made the 2 girls start to back away slowly, getting ramen Datbeo. After he said that, he got a slap to the back of his head. Hitch made him chuckle. He really liked Satsuki and Toki. After seeing his clone's memories of them, he couldn't help but comment though, and because of that he would be on the ground holding his head from the pain. Ouch, Satsuki-chan, keep hitting me and I might confuse you for a stronger Sakura, ha ha ha, said Naruto with a cheeky grin until he was holding his head because of a stronger strike. Okay, I'm sorry. Please have mercy, said Naruto, crying and holding on Satsuki's leg pleadingly. Finally she gave a sigh and let him up without smacking his head again. Thanks, Satsuki-chan. Man, you seriously, you and too. His strength from my memories are no joke, said Naruto with a grimace as he rubbed the swollen bubble on his head. Man, it hurt. So back to the question, what do you want for a house? Said Naruto. He had already purchased a massive plot of land at the top of the Hokage monument, but it was quite a bit off from the Hokage office, which gave a lot of privacy. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? You must know that we were broke, right? Asked Toki with a tilt of her head, which indirectly made Naruto think of cute. Well, I have been out of the village for 3 years and I have gained abilities that would shock you to your core, so let's go to our plot of land and you tell me how you want the house, okay ladies? Said Naruto with a smirk worming onto his face. He couldn't wait to see their expr Eshin when he makes the house from his Mokuden. Satsuki grabbed Naruto's left arm while Toki had grabbed his right arm. With both securely on, he used the shunshin to travel to his plot of land. Now GIRLS describe the house, said Naruto while taking out a notebook and thinking of some things that he wanted in his house. I would like to have a training field behind the house along with the onsen connected to the house so we don't have to go outside to go into it, along with having an indoor pool once again connected to the house. Also a green room so we can garden, said Satsuki with a finger on her chin and imagining how in the hell Naruto was going to be able to make everything before night. Finally Toki decided on how the house would be made. Okay, 3-story with an underground base which should be held as a library and jutsu practice area, with the first floor living room and kitchen along with a theater room and game room. For the second floor I would like it to be sleeping area with 4 rooms, 1 main room that can hold the 3 of us, because frankly I've gotten used to sleeping with both you and Satsuki in that room. I would like it to have a massive walk-in bathroom along with closet. For the other 3 rooms I would like them each to have a bathroom, but not as big, with smaller closets. For the third story I would like a study room, and I would like all of this to be in a modern type of building. With her piece said. Toki fell silent while looking at Naruto with an expecting look, and Naruto took this as his cue to start. Alright, girls, move back a bit and be ready to be amazed, said Naruto in an excited tone with a fire burning within his eyes. When Toki and Satsuki moved back, Naruto positioned his hands into a prayer-like hand sign. This made both girls' eyes widen with shock. Naruto couldn't do that, right? Naruto, waiting for the anticipation to get high enough, made his chakra flow, which had slowly made the ground shake. Soon thousands of roots raised from the ground and formed the house both Toki and Satsuki had imagined. It was amazing to both girls. They seriously wanted to jump Naruto but had waited until he was done. 15 minutes later and their dream house was done, and that was the cue to jump Naruto and kiss his cheeks, which Naruto responded with a massive blush that would have made a tomato jealous. Ha ha ha, it was nothing, ya know, said Naruto with a stupid grin, at which Toki and Satsuki kissed his cheek again. It really was their Naruto and not just a fake. Well, we still got to go get furniture, said Naruto in an even tone. He really do. BTS, anyone would remember him unless they see his whisker marks, which had now looked thinner and closer to his face. But we can't afford it, Satsuki reminded Naruto with a pout which was washed awa. Why? When Naruto pulled out a suitcase from somewhere and opened it up to show thousands of yen all stacked neatly in the case. As soon as Naruto pulled his case out, he was literally dragged around buying everything the girls had wanted. He had heard multiple comments from villagers but chose to ignore them in favor of enjoying Satsuki's and Toki's time together. Near the end of the day, as they were walking by Ichiraku, Naruto smelt the sweet smell of ramen and couldn't help himself enter. So what if they poisoned his ramen? He couldn't die from it, so what's the harm dragging Satsuki and Toki with him? Naruto sat down in the middle of them both and ordered himself 30 bowls or chicken ramen, with both girls ordering 1 beef and miso ramen. Now the Ayame had seen Kushina Uzumaki and her daughter At 7 bowls of ramen before getting full, but this kid literally ordered 30 bowls of chicken ramen. It was amazing. While she was spacing out, Naruto spoke for the first time since entering. Oh, Ayame also. Do me a favor and not put poison in my bowls please, said Naruto with a smirk while Ayame looking closely at Naruto paled. How was this possible? What happened to the twerp who she had beaten up last week with her dad? Looking at Naruto again, he flashed her a grin. Ayame, if you do this for me I will pay you 20,000 yen along with a tip of 10,000, but you have to sit and have some ramen with me as well. I want to see if I'm so bad. Do you accept? Ayame now started sweating. Her dad wasn't because he was on a business trip and would be gone for a few weeks, and it had been harder to get customers. NCE the twerp. Naruto stopped coming a few months ago. She didn't know why, but it was getting harder to pay the rent, and if she got this she could pay for the whole stall. With a sigh she had accepted. Fine, but if you do anything I'll scream, said Ayame in a suspicious tone. 30 minutes later we find Ayame laughing her ass off and enjoying the company of Naruto and his friends. Then he was like I am possible and started to cry, said Naruto, pissing himself laughing like the other 3 occupants there. It was amazing. 30 minutes prior to meeting Naruto, Ayame was defensive and suspicious. It truly was amazing how Naruto could make friends of most of his enemies. So that's why Shisui of the Shunshin had worn a pink toto on his missions for the week. I mean, he came in twice and he was wearing a mask, but because of Minato wanting him to follow the bet, told everyone of his identity. He was a laughing stock for a week. It was hilarious, said Ayame, crying in joy. It was so fun talking to Naruto and his friends. She definitely got him all wrong. Yep. Say, does anyone have pictures? Naruto asked, only to see everyone shake their heads. Damn, no blackmail. Toki, who had almost fell off her chair, saw the flaps to the stall open, looked on in worry as the only people she thought Naruto couldn't stand were right there: Minato Namikaze, Kushina Namikaze, and finally the heiress of both Uzumaki and Namikaze, Mito Uzumaki Namikaze. Ayame had seen them enter and gasped until Naruto looked. You could hear a pin drop at that moment. Satsuki and Toki were ready to hold Naruto back and Ayame was red. Why to help the others hold him back, but Naruto simply stared until a grin formed onto his face. He will never hate his birth family for what they did, but he sure as hell isn't going to be friends with them. So looking back at his ramen, Naruto continued with his story. So Shisui had actually cried because he lost the bet. Then Itachi had laughed as well. He actually laughed. Man, I haven't heard a high-pitched laugh before. I mean, after Itachi laughed he threatened to tie me up naked on a flagpole because of me hearing it. Man, his face though, it was too much, said Naruto with tears once again pooling down his face, which was shared with the rest of the girls until the Hokage asked for service. Sorry Naruto-kun, gotta work. Are you still going to be coming back later? Asked Ayame as she started to take notes of what the Namikaze family wanted, although when she asked that they had turned their heads to look at who she called Naruto-kun, and their jaws dropped instantly. They could telephone that was their disowned son, but at the same time they knew he was different, which had shocked them into silence since they had seen the child a few days prior. Of course Ayame. Ni-chan, said Naruto. Oh, with a grin splitting his face as Ayame glomped him for saying that before. When she had hated Naruto, she despised him for saying that, but now it felt nice, really nice to hear that. Okay Naruto-kun, be safe, and Satsuki-chan, Toki-chan, keep him away from trouble, okay, said Ayame with a grin on her face, which made Naruto retort with a hey, while both Satsuki and Toki grinned, then pinch Naruto on the fac and start dragging him out to their new house, or they would if Mito hadn't decided to butt in. Hey, losers, what were you doing in here? No wannabe ninjas allowed where they make the food of the gods, said Mito with a superior tone. At that, Naruto's eye twitched multiple times before replying. If that is true, then those with impure hearts may not enter this divine palace at which they serve the food of the gods. Now be gone those of foul hearts, said Naruto in a powerful sage voice, but that was ruined with his cheeky grin that had snuck up on his face. He could hear Ayame laughing as he walked out in Mito's rants. All life is good for Naruto and his 2 favorite girls, who had resumed pinching his face again. Chapter 5. Graduation Day, a day where children become ninjas for their age, a day when children become serious and wise adults ready to lead the future. Well, that's the idea. Graduation room. Shut up, screamed Iruka as he had been waiting for the past 10 minutes for people to shut up so that he could finish the roll. When everyone fell silent he started from where he was interrupted from. "Okay Uchiha Sasuke," said Iruka only to hear a grunt from the Uchiha in the middle row. "Okay Uzumaki Naruto," said Iruka with a small smile. During the time Naruto was in his class he had started to like the kid. He was just misunderstood, expecting Naruto to be late and fail again. He didn't expect to hear a "Yo sensei." Looking around for an orange jumpsuit he thought he was hearing things until an eraser hit his head making him look up only to see a child with spiky blonde hair that reached his shoulders with crimson tips at the end, wearing a black jumper with crimson patterns traveling throughout the entire jumper, same jacket from before including writing and symbols on back. And also wearing black anbu pants with black bandages wrapped his left leg which was sticking out of the rows, and also wearing black sandals. Iruka had no idea who he was until the child pointed his finger to his face, where there were faint whisker-like marks adoring his face. Instantly Iruka figured out who he was. He was Naruto Uzumaki, and his face did nothing to hide the shock he had held. At this point the whole class with the exception of Satsuki and Toki stared gaping at him until a voice only a monkey screeching could make spoke. "Naruto, stop trying to make Mito and Sasuke look bad. You stupid baka," screeched out the owner of the monkey voice, Sakura Haruno, the leader of the SUFC, the Sasuke Uchiha fan club. It was funny watching Sasuke suffer. The dude was a total prick in Naruto's books. Hokage office. Sitting in a room were the new Jonin senseis who would be collecting their teams soon. However, they all wanted some information on their behaviors first, and thus watching with the Hokage the graduation class. Currently Kakashi was crying anime tears when he had heard Sakura's voice and asked if anyone wanted to trade, but that ended in a failure instantly. But what happened next made Kakashi want to trade his whole team up in an instance. "Graduation class. You say something?" asked Naruto, who was busy talking to Kurama on how to make a tailed beast bomb with only his own chakra. While it would be weaker if he infused say his wind element, it would probably rival his futon Rasenshuriken in raw power and destruction. Finding himself spaced out again, he missed the shocked looks he had gotten from everyone else. "Hokage office. Nope, sorry sensei, I want him as an apprentice. We would work so well," said Kakashi as he was planning if he got the kid to be his apprentice a face mask and a copy of ICHA. But alas, he was denied. "No Kakashi, I do not care. You will have Sakura, Mito and Sasuke under Team 7. Got that?" said Minato in an annoyed tone as he didn't want another Kakashi lookalike, and worst of all Naruto. "Fine," said Kakashi silently, crying all that time he could be reading ICHA with the kid gone. Maybe Sasuke would be into ICHA. "Is everyone happy with their teams?" asked Minato with his fingers in front of his face. He still needed to call Naruto, Toki and Satsuki into his office about the lack of Jonin. Also Asuma, tell Naruto Uzumaki, Satsuki and Toki to come to my office ASAP, said Minato, still looking into the crystal ball and seeing how Mito is doing. With that said, the Jonin had left their Hokage in the office himself. Graduation room. Okay, each of your Jonin senseis will pick you up any minute, so here are the teams. 1 to 6 not important. Team 7. Sakura Haruno, Mito Uzumaki Namikaze, and finally Sasuke Uchiha. Team 8. Hinata Hyuga, Hiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame. Team 9 still in circulation. Team 10. Ino Yamanaka, Shoji Akamichi, and finally Shikamaru Nara. At that moment Asuma walked in. Team 10 with me, ALS. Oh, Naruto Uzumaki and Satsuki and Toki, the Hokage want to see you. With his piece said he walk away with his team in tow. Shrugging, Naruto grabbed both Toki and Satsuki by the hips and disappeared with Shunshin, only to reappear in the Hokage office, which had shocked Minato, thinking that Naruto didn't know that jutsu. Minato, putting a poker face on, started to say something until Naruto spoke up. There was not enough Jonin and we were unlucky enough to not gain one. It really doesn't matter, I think that me and my 2 lovely friends here will be enough to take on S-rank missions in about a year. Without a Jonin supervising us, said Naruto with a bored look which shocked the other people in the room, including the Anbu stationed in the corners of the room. Minato, recovering quickly, made a try to say it would be best if they wait for a Jonin, got once again cut off by Naruto with an interesting offer. How about this, Hokage-sama? I bet that me and my 2 teammates will be the strongest. Hey. I'm with the most successful mission ranks by the start of the Chunin exams. If I win the bet my team and I get something from your personal collection, and if you win I will tell you a secret that would instantly put me on for the CRA. How about it? Asked Naruto with a raise of an eyebrow while he watched Minato put some thought into it but instantly thought that Naruto was bluffing. Call him on bet. Fine, I agree to the terms. Come here Monday to start you missions. Remember you need at least 30D rank missions before getting asking for AC rank. Okay, said Minato thinking that they wouldn't saint a week without a Jonin sensei guiding them. Okay, I agree to the terms, said Naruto walking away with his two teammates. When they were gone Minato called one of his Anbu to his side. Look after them and assess if they can do a decent job as ninjas. Okay, said Minato getting a nod from the Anbu as he disappeared with the Shunshin. Training Ground 43. Okay Satsuki, Toki, let's hear what you're good at. ND what you're not good at, said Naruto sitting cross-legged waiting for the two to start. I have a good grasp on the Academy 3 and a decent taijutsu, and I also have the Mokuden bloodline due to my grandmother had an affair with Hashirama before he met Mito Uzumaki, said Toki in an even and relaxed tone. At this information the Anbu in the tree forced himself to stay put and not tell the Hokage what he had just heard. Okay cool, I was wondering where you got the Mokuden bloodline from. What about you Satsuki? Asked Naruto with a tilt of his head. Academy 3 point of mastered, and I also have He great fireball jutsu, and I am mid Chunin in taijutsu when I use my Uchiha interceptor stance along with my Sharingan what has 2 tomos in it, said Satsuki in a proud tone thinking she probably had the best stats there. That was until Naruto spoke. Okay, I have 3 bloodlines and kyuubi in me which grants me a higher healing rate, and because of one of my bloodlines which I had developed will I was out training I get near instantaneous regeneration and the ability to consume and shape shift. By consume I mean once I kill an opponent I will have the choice to break apart their DNA and orbit into my body. With this I gain the target's memories, skills, and bloodlines if they have any. My second bloodline is the Sharingan which I had evolved into its Mangekyo Sharingan form by having kyuubi place some chakra into my eyes. Because of that I didn't have to kill anyone to gain them. My Mangekyo Sharingan give me the moves Amaterasu, Susanoo, Koto Amatsukami and finally Kumai. Along with this my Sharingan lets me turn back time for at least 5 seconds if I so choose to do so. However, it is a massive chakra waste, even though I doubt I could ever get chakra exhaustion due to me having RFECT control and a tailed beast amount of it. My final bloodline is Mokuden, and I will tell you later on how I had gained both Sharingan and Mokuden. My natural abilities is cage level speed with my resistance seals on Tsunade with chakra enhanced strength is my natural raw strength heightened senses due to kyuubi. My skills are cage level taijutsu, cage level kenjutsu, 100% control of chakra, Byuji chakra amount, Fuin jutsu sealing master, and finally sage of both the dragon and phoenix clans. I also have 100% over all 5 main elements, and I am starting to do the Mokuden element training soon. Because of this I can bend all 5 elements to do attacks without much hand seals. Currently I have the Rasengan which I had upgraded to multiple elemental Rasengans. My strongest however is Futon Rasenshuriken, which is a throw-able Rasengan. I can also do the Kujibushin and Great Clone Explosion along with the Kujibushin forms of Kunai and Shuriken, and that's mostly it I think, said Naruto SC, ratching his head in complete thought. I mean he learned a lot of shit in his time away, and I mean how do you tell people that without sounding like you're overcompensating? I mean imagine if he said he could use the physical and spiritual part of chakra separate and being able to fly along with doing ninpo attacks that could be each classified as A rank or S rank. Now that he thinks about it, he really is around the sage's level. Fuck yay, fist pump moment FTW. Satsuki just stared blankly then fainted, while Toki had for some reason start to blush and pant at the thought of Naruto being that strong. Hey, it's true what they say, power attracts, and the Anbu in the tree was seriously wondering if that was possible until he looked down and saw his food connected to a root that started from the floor. With a tug the Anbu was held midair by multiple roots while Naruto had appeared in front of the Anbu in a nanosecond of a second, which had the effect of him really believing what Naruto said about abilities now. Deciding to start, Naruto spoke in an even tone. Are you happy with the current information I had given you? Anbu, tell the Hokage I aim to win the bet and also have a nice day, Convent. Shing him that you're not on drugs. With that, Naruto made the roots flung the Anbu towards the direction of the Hokage tower. Because of this he had missed a tree that had a dead root Anbu on one of his branches. Walking up to the two girls, Naruto asked in a happy tone, "So ready to start the training?" At this both girls shuddered. They were going to die. If what Naruto said was true, they were going to die. Chapter 6. Come on ladies, only a few more miles, said Naruto, jogging on the spot while wearing additional weights and resistance seals so that he would only be at around high Jonin level in SP. Eat and reflexes so that his two teammates could hopefully keep up. That was until he had noticed that they weren't even in his eyesight. Signing, he activated his Sharingan to see where their chakra signatures were. And he could barely spot them at around the 10 kilometers range. Disappointed, he shunshined to their location to only see a passed-out Satsuki and a dry-heaving Toki. Signing again, he picked both them up and shunshined back to his current house, where he dropped both of them on the main bed and left to do his own training. For the last few months, Naruto had kept his promise that he would make Team 11 the most successful team there was between the rookie 15 feet. Team 11 had completed 62 D ranks, 34 C ranks, 21 B ranks and finally 13 A ranks. The only reason he had been able to get the C, B, and A ranks were because of the fact that everyone wanted his team to do the mission specifically had also helped. Hell, even Minato couldn't deny that Team 11 was the most successful team since the village's founding. Naruto's team had obliterated most records held by even veteran Jonin, and by the way the client talks about the team, if Naruto had done the missions himself, the missions would have been done even faster. It was mind-boggling. Hell, his own daughter's team had not even done over 5 C ranks, and he himself trained his daughter to about a low Jonin level, while Kakashi had trained Sasuke to about a high Chunin level and Sakura, the other student, to a solid Genin level. But that was only due to the girl's fangirlism that she had on Sasuke. The next Chunin exams are coming up and Naruto has won the bet. Might as well give him the scroll he wants now, said Minato in a self-pondering tone, as he had no way to win the bet between himself and Naruto. With another sign, he called Ed the Anbu. Sparrow, go get Genin Naruto Uzumaki. With the command done, Sparrow had used a shunshin to appear next to Naruto to only drop his jaw at what he saw. There the Genin Naruto Uzumaki was walking up a waterfall with boulders tied to his wrists and legs, and from the look of it the boulders had gravity seals at a level that he couldn't quite see from. Shaking his head, he walked into the sea. Leering that Naruto was training in, which happened to be in training ground 11, Sparrow called out to the training Genin, "Naruto Uzumaki, the Hokage wishes to see you now." With that done, Sparrow waited for Naruto to drop the boulders and disappear with a shunshin. Cautiously walking up to the boulders, he had tried to pick one up only to not be able to lift the thing with his full strength and with his chakra enhancing his muscles as well. Thinking of how Guy might react if he found out someone was doing this, he quickly left back to the Hokage's office. Hokage office. Now Naruto, I have decided that since there is no way of avoiding the bet, I have decided that you can choose the scroll you want from the house. So which will you choose? Asked Minato with a raised eyebrow, honestly wanting to know what his ex-son wanted, and he was shocked at what he heard. Everything that the second Hokage had on his Hiraishin no Jutsu formula, which I know you have since I saw it when I was younger. With his piece, said Naruto, crossed his arms with a cheeky grin on his face. His old man probably thought he wanted one of his jutsus, but he wanted his own original space-time technique, and he had some ideas for it already. Grimacing, Minato disappeared with a yellow flash for a few moments and then finally returned in another yellow flash, holding out the scroll. Minato dropped the scroll into Naruto's hand, still in shock that the kid wanted to learn space-time ninjutsu, even though it's one of the most complex arts there is. Hell, Fuin Jutsu compared to space-time ninjutsu was like writing the number 1 over and over, and space-time ninjutsu was like designing a complex home with only a hammer. It was almost impossible. Just out of curiosity, what are you planning to do with that? Asked Minato. With hundreds of ideas going through his head at what the kid would do with that knowledge. Hell, he maybe might make a Hiraishin no Jutsu copy for all he knew. Well, I'm planning on making my own space-time technique so that it could be my ultimate trump card in a fight. And don't worry, I won't try replicate the Hiraishin no Jutsu, said Naruto while rubbing the back of his head while grinning at the Hokage. He didn't know who he had inherited that action from, but it was too natural to ignore no matter how much times he tried to. Oh okay, I guess if Konoha had another space-time ninjutsu user it would be good. Well anyway, I need to get back to doing the paperwork, said Minato looking back at his desk, only to start to tear a bit. His paperwork stash had grown by 5x the original size. He was so not leaving until late in the evening. Minato, because of the paperwork, had missed Naruto's grin when he saw how desperate Hokage looked when facing his paperwork, so he decided to use this to his advantage. Hey Hokage-sama, do you want the secret to defeating the evil known as paperwork? Asked Naruto in a hushed tone, which instantly made Minato grab him by the shoulders and start to shake him. Please tell me the secret to defeating this evil known as paperwork. Screamed Minato while crying he would do anything to find out how to defeat the evil known as paperwork. Hell, he would have GHT all tailed beasts at the same time for a chance at finding the way to beat paperwork. Slowing his shaking, Naruto stood up and had pointed up 3 fingers. Okay, but I want 3 things. 1. I want Senin travel rights. 2. I want 3 U's from you in which I can get anything I want at a later date. 3. Grinning evilly, Naruto said what his last of his requests. 3. Throw apple pie at your wife and dog. Chair in the middle of the street with me recording it, along with me putting a seal on you that will erase the secret I tell you if you try to tell others. This also counts writing, motioning and practically anything revolving the secret. With his request done, he saw Minato pale at the last request. Was it truly worth it to throw apple pie at Kushina and Mito's face and get a seal on him that will erase the information of the secret if he told anyone? Looking at his desk one more time, he knew the answer. Yes, Naruto-sama, tell me the secret. All 3 of your requests done and agreed to, please tell me, said Minato with as much emotion as he possible could. He doesn't care about the pie. Looking at his desk, or what used to be his desk, he could only see mountains of paperwork growing before his eyes. It was too much for him. Grabbing 3 Hokage U's and his pen, he had started writing up Naruto's traveling rights and U's. After that was done, Naruto placed the seal on his wrists and told the Hokage about the seal, reacting if anyone tried to take it off him that wasn't him, it would erase the knowledge anyway. Naruto, grinning, placed his hands around the Hokage's eye and read 2 words. Cage, Bushin. Also, I expect the pie in the face at 3 p.m. After that, Naruto dashed to his study, leaving a silent Minato. Slowly, Minato told everyone of his Anbu to leave him. With a nod, all the Anbu left. Making sure he was alone, Minato summoned 4 Kage Bushin. You know what to do, said Minato in an even tone. As soon as his clones started working, he left with a shunshin and appeared in a pastry shop buying 2 apple pies. He had told another pair of Kage Bushins to get his wife and daughter. He could see Naruto a few meters away from him with a camera out ready for the scene waiting to be shown. Kushina and Mito had arrived and only managed to say 2 words before getting apple pie to the face. Everyone was quiet, well except Naruto, who was crying on the floor laughing while still holding on his camera on the scene what was happening in front of him. A few seconds later, Minato yelled out before running away, "Blame Naruto with his bets." With that, he flashed away only to miss Naruto's pale face. While the 2 red-haired women had slowly gotten up and stared at him. At this he knew he was screwed if he didn't leave now, so with a 2-finger salute, "Sorry I got to dash, but the pranking king from hell has much more work to do." With that, he disappeared back to his house only to find it empty again. It was weird. Satsuki and Toki would only be around or in the house for at max, not including sleep, but then again they don't even sleep here sometimes, for about 3 hours before doing their team training and then leaving to wherever they went. It was weird for Naruto especially since he was dating them both, but it must be a girl thing. Either way, he enjoyed his time with them. Now all that there was left to do was get ready for the Chunin exams what were coming up soon. Sleeping in his study, which he had transformed into a new room due to Satsuki and Toki not wanting Naruto to sleep with them in the main room, which he understood because I would be quite weird if he did that without their permission. So with a sigh he started reading Lord Second's information about space-time ninjutsu. After all, he needed it for his next project named Time Devil. Chapter 7. Don't own Naruto. Hokage office day. So we all know why we are here, right? Asked Minato as he stared at the Jonin in front of him. It was finally the time of the Chunin exams once again, and he was feeling kind of, for some strange reason, tense. The only other time he could describe this feeling was when he defeated Iwa with his Hiraishin Jutsu during the Third Great Ninja War. Looking up, he finally decided to get the meeting started. Does anyone recommend their teams to participate in the Chunin exams? Asked Minato, looking from left to right. He had an idea of who would most likely sign their teams up, but he still had to know. Finally someone spoke up. I, Hatake Kakashi, nominate Team 7 for the Chunin exams. After this was said, the senseis of Team 8, Team 9 and Team 10 also had requested their teams to participate. After a bit of waiting, another voice spoke up from the back. I too would like to nominate my team to participate in the Chunin exams. After hearing that, everyone looked back, only seeing the face of Naruto Uzumaki, the most successful genin team leader to ever be recorded since the starting of Konoha as a whole. It was amazing. Wait, Hokage-sama, I don't think that teams are ready to participate, said Iruka, who had been helping with the paperwork that day. Even though he had been working for the past few hours, he had noticed that the usual mountain of paperwork that would normally be there every day be reduced to about 100 sheets at any given time. Maybe he figured out a way to beat paperwork. Going off topic, Iruka made his claim. I had taught those students since the academy, and while they have good Jonin senseis, I would only recommend either Guy's group or even Naruto's group, and the only reason for Naruto's group is because they have made Ms. Scion in nearly every rank completed with top marks from the clients, said Iruka, waiting to see if the Hokage would listen to him and his well-thought-out explanation on the matter. Normally I would agree, but this year 3 teams are filled with clan heirs, and both Guy's team and Naruto's team are already fully prepared to take on the Chunin exams. With that said, he had instructed everyone to leave the room. Once everyone filled out, he summoned a carrier hawk and attached Team Naruto's Chunin exam application forms to the hawk's leg. Giving a signal, the hawk flew off to his targeted destination. Let's tweak this a bit. Add a compactor seal here. And done. Finally, now all it needs is my blood and chakra, mumbled Naruto as he had finished possibly making the most complex seal since his father's Hiraishin. It may have taken countless weeks with barely any sleep being in between making the bloody seal, but now he can always look back at this day to his greatest achievement at the sole age of 13. Standing up, he started walking out to the back and simply sat in a meditation position that the dragons had taught him, even though he knew both positions for how the dragons and phoenixes trained their sages. Or would have trained their sages, since he was the only one who got the chance. He found that it didn't really affect him in gathering nature chakra other than when in the dragon pose. Chi on the nature chakra was a lot denser, which had the effect of it lasting longer and boosting his strength much more than his speed, but also gave him unbreakable skin, but because of that it also took a longer time to gather the nature chakra to go into dragon sage mode. The Phoenix one, however, made gathering nature chakra really fast while also boosting his speed and also giving him a higher regenerative ability. And if he gets good enough using Phoenix sage mode, he could rebirth himself if he truly died while in the Phoenix sage mode. The downside to this is that the sage mode of the Phoenixes makes the nature chakra run out faster, so it would only be effective in defeating either an enemy as fast as possible or if it was to finish a fight as fast as possible. So while both sage modes do come in handy, it was really hard to use during mid-battle because of the required time limit of either gathering or running out of energy. With a sign, Naruto slowly drifted into his mindscape, which he had not been in for the past few days. Naruto's mindscape. Waking up in his mindscape, Naruto started walking forward towards the seal that would be a few minutes away, taking time to view his mindscape. He saw all the lush forest trees growing with a beautiful nice shade of green on each and every leaf on every tree. He truly loved nature after being accustomed to his Mokuden and Senjutsu training. He honestly spent as much time as he could growing trees around him and sleeping against them. He honestly also doesn't mind when he wakes up to having forest animals all cuddled up against him. Hell, he enjoyed it, and because of this he was able to walk in the forest and pet any animal he would see, and they would enjoy his touch and not feel threatened at all. It was a good feeling to have. Seeing a big 5-story building in the distance, Naruto sped up his walking speed to a slow jog. Well, if you would count high Jonin level speed as a slow jog. Coming to a stop at the front of the he could hear a large amount of animals moving around with a feminine voice talking. That's new, maybe Kurama made a female fox for himself. Shrugging, he opened the door and just stared blankly at the sight in front of him. Animals ranging from tiger cubs to platypuses all standing on their hind legs doing stretches, but what made him go into shock was seeing Kurama in a tiny fox form with pink sweatbands on. After that image was forcefully implanted into his head, Naruto did what most would do to a situation like this. He laughed. He couldn't believe it, a class of animals doing yoga with Kurama wearing a pink jumpsuit while instructing the class. He couldn't help himself even when everyone stopped and looked at him and then continued with their class. For Naruto, he couldn't help what he did after that. After seeing them continue their yoga completely ignoring him, he stood up and walked over to Kurama and sat next to the fox, which for some reason gave him a shiver, but it shouldn't be too bad for him, he hoped. After another half an hour or so, the class ended with a game of musical chairs for the young animals, which Naruto would never admit he joined and got beaten in by a turtle that was closer to the chair than he was. It sucked. A speed demon got beat by a babe turtle. That hurt his pride more than anything. With a pained voice, Naruto asked for an answer of why Kurama had done that to him, which had got him with Kurama sitting on his back. You know, when a woman tells you something, you should listen, stated Kurama with a bored tone, but you could easily see a massive grin on the fox's face. The reason for that was Naruto's deer in a headlight face. He was stunned stupid. Kurama, his partner for the past few years, was female. How in the blue hell was he sup? OSED to know. Kurama, seriously, since when were you a female? Asked Naruto in a flat tone, but anyone could tell he was still shocked stupid from the revelation. Since I was born, said Kurama with an even tone while now laying on Naruto's back with both paws on his head ready to strike at him at a moment's notice. But then why do you have Kurama as a name? I mean, that sounds like a dude name, said Naruto in a curious tone. Now seriously, this was weird, but he wanted to know, damn it. Well, the sage didn't really think that we would have gotten genders because you know, masses of chakra, right? We also didn't learn how to talk until a few years after his passing, so we got our names, but while he managed to get everyone else's name right, he didn't get mine. It wasn't fair, said Kurama with her head down on her paws now, still laying on top of Naruto as she had continued her rant. But I wouldn't have noticed you for a girl if I didn't see it myself. I mean, in you big form, which I'm guessing you can transform into easily. Had such a deep voice that I instantly thought you were male, said Naruto while staring blankly to the wall ahead of him. Damn, Kurama was still laying on his back so he can't move at all. Well, if you think about it, I'm really tall and so is my, I guess, organs, so my vocal cords are massive, so it must come out as a very deep voice, said Kurama with paw on her chin. Well, do you want a new name though? Asked Naruto while tilting his head to the side a bit to see Kurama's face, which had a thoughtful look. After a few minutes of thinking, Kurama had accepted if it was a good name. Let's see, how about Kusumi? Would that work? Asked Naruto with a raised eyebrow at the fox on his back. After a few seconds, however, the newly named Kusumi jumped up and down on Naruto's spine happily. Yes, that's the most perfect name for me, said Kusumi with joy. After the whole name thing, Naruto and Kusumi spent time with each other playing games like poker and just simply talking. It was the most fun he had in his life since meeting Shisui and Itachi when Itachi used to like him. Academy gates. Walking up to the academy gates, he saw his two teammates and girlfriends Satsuki and Toki. Quickly kissing them on the cheek, he slowly dragged them in towards the staircase. He instantly caught sight of a genjutsu and quickly passing by it, ignoring the ongoing drama there. Bako. Say he was still dragging both of his teammates. He had missed it, both Satsuki and Toki blushing when he went past the drama. Getting up to the second floor, he quickly found a random Chunin who had to take their forms of entry for them, due to not having a Jonin sensei. After getting it all set up and ready, Naruto stared at the door with contempt, and with a grin he did a forward kick that sent the door flying through the room and out the window. Everyone was dead silent when he had walked in. I mean, who wouldn't? That was the most badass entrance anyone here probably had heard, enjoying the face of the other genin. He was about to sit down when he had heard the voice of a banshee. Ino pig, get off Sasuke-kun, screamed the pink-haired howler monkey, and the blonde-haired chick had latched onto Sasuke's back while walking into the class. Deciding not to get involved, he sat down and rested his head on his arms. Because of this, he had not seen Toki and Satsuki move closer to their group, although he had heard a person by the name of Kabuto talking about information cards that he had collected through his many times in the Chunin exams. Deciding to listen, he heard Kabuto talk about a red-head Sunanin by the name of Gaara and information about him. He was curious of what his card would have said, so he listened to what was on the card. Naruto Uzumaki son of the 4th Hokage and brother to Konoha's Princess Mito Uzumaki Namikaze. His current levels are. After waiting for about a minute, Sasuke had to ask again, only for Kabuto to look directly at him and start paling. It was kind of hilarious if he thought about it, and with that he had fallen asleep. Time skip preliminary. Sorry but I couldn't be bothered with Forest of Death or first part, but it's basically the saw. Me is canon, just that Naruto doesn't inspire everyone Mito did in Naruto's group doesn't meet with Orochimaru or the other rookies at all, and they are 3 days early. Cough cough cough. Okay, I welco. Miyu Genin who had made it to the 3rd part of the test, however because there are too much people we will have to have a preliminary to decide who goes to the finals. At this Hayate, the protector. For the 3rd Chunin exams clicked a remote that had made a large flat screen descend from the roof and randomly scroll through names. In Naruto's opinion the fights were quite boring, seeing as how they had ended all too fast for his tastes. However, to be fair, some matches were good, like Toki's versus a Kumo chick by the name of Kurai, but due to still being a fresh genin even though they had done the most missions in a few months, she couldn't beat a more experienced genin. Satsuki was the same as she had fought Samui, their team captain, and only lost due to her overconfidence, and now she was suffering from electricity burns in the med bay. Looking up at the screen he couldn't help but smile at what he saw. Naruto Uzumaki versus Kiba Inuzuka. Finally he got to fight. He was ready to go and how these people, how badass he was, until he heard Kiba talk. Haha, we got this Akamaru, we got the dead last. Who cares about his mission ranks? He probably begged others to say he did those missions. Said Kiba, with others nodding to what he had said. No one really saw Naruto fight, so it must have been bribes that gave him that mission ranks. Seeing that people agreed with Kiba pissed Naruto right off. He wasn't going to kick his ass now, no. He was going to demolish him. Using a fire shunshin he appeared on the floor waiting for Kiba to hurry up, which he seemed to take forever. However, he had saw that Toki was laughing, so he might as well let Kiba take more time in making himself look like a clown. Finally making his way down, Kiba started with his taunting. Dead last, how about you give? Up now and I don't make you look even more of a loser, said Kiba while trying to show off his non-existent muscles to the group. Can you hurry up here, I'm getting bored over here, said Naruto, making a deliberate yawn, which had gotten the attention from everyone including the other genin, but Toki's face was weird to him. It looked like she was annoyed he had interrupted Kiba's gloating, or she was annoyed he had made him stop making himself look like an ass. Cough. Okay, the match between Naruto Uzumaki and Kiba Inuzuka is now beginning, with that Hayate jumped back signaling the fight beginning. Naruto, still bored, appeared behind Kiba and kicked him with a corkscrew kick to the ribs, which left a loud cracking sound going through the area. Oh! Screamed Kiba as he held the left side of his ribs, which were probably broken by now, staring blankly at the fact he just beat Kiba with a simple kick at like only 10% of his sealed state. It kinda worried him. I mean, seriously, he beat someone in one kick. Like, what the actual hell, that's not natural. Hayate, I don't think he can continue, said Naruto, scratching the back of his head as he watched Kiba squirm from the pain he was feeling. Finally getting back from the shock, Hayate had called the match winner Naruto Uzumaki. With that, the medics had come in, including Tsunade, as she wanted to see the damage the kid had been dealt with. Doing a quick medical scan, it showed that he had broken all his ribs on the left side, and the amazing thing was nearly every bone near the ribs had also been fractured to a point that they could break at the slightest touch. Carrying the boy to the med bay, Tsunade looked back at the shocked look Naruto had on his face. That instantly proved he didn't do that on purpose, but to have that much strength. It was amazing. While nowhere near her, it was a lot of strength, maybe even more than Guy's strength without his weights. Okay, final match, Mito Namikaze versus Omoi. Waiting for the two to appear, he had started the match. This will be way too easy. Sorry, but you're finished. With that, Mito ran at Omoi at Chunin level speeds and aimed for a haymaker straight to the head, which Omoi countered by striking his left knee, which had made Mito's haymaker miss its mark by a large amount. Throwing his knee up, Omoi kneed Mito straight in the jaw, then followed up with a sweep kick that had tripped Mito. Grabbing his sword, he pointed the tip at her neck. Sorry, but you have to surrender, and if you don't, I will have to land the killing blow, which would make the 4th Hokage kill me and Then the Raikage will fight the 4th Hokage, and then there will be the 4th Shinobi War, and then everyone will kill each other until we are all dead, and then the Raikage in his dying breath will send me to hell, and I don't want to go there, so please surrender," asked Omoi, which had made everyone who was listening into his random ramblings, which had Samui and Kurai blush a bit at his behavu, while still pointing his sword at Mito's neck, only to hear a shout of Rasengan, and to feel in spiraling pain in his back before feeling his body getting destroyed from the inside. With a final poo, Shisho flew off and smashed head first into the wall. Hayate, quickly calling medics in, had grabbed the destroyed Omoi and pried his body out of the now man-sized hole in the wall. After that match, Eve, Rai winner, had been gathered up in the middle ready for the name calls. Going up first, Naruto pulled out a 1, next up was Hinata Hyuga, who funny enough got 2. He remembered her match quite well, it w. as against her cousin who had a massive stick up his ass, but compared to Hinata it was a tiny twig. Sure, he kept talking about fate until Hinata told him to shut up and then activated his curse seal. And watched as he had pleaded for her to stop. It was sickening to watch, which is why he had challenged Hinata on behalf of the Hyuga's branch members. Now he gets the chance to do it. Stipulations for his win: a free chance at taking a try at taking their seal off. He loses, he is to be the main branch's personal slave and also be branded with their seal. "Well, princess, good luck," said Naruto as he had left before the other matches were called up. If he had stayed, he might have seen Satsuki and Toki come out of the med bays with their cloths ruffled a bit. Time skip week 1. So Kusumi with Suki and Toki busy with woman stuff, and Shisui still on Anbu missions, and Ayame on a business trip with old man Ichiraku. We got the entire time to train. "So what do you think we should do?" asked Naruto while watching the clouds slowly float across the sky. To be completely honest, he had been already strong enough to beat every cage with his restrictions on, but he still liked to train. After all, he still needed to keep sharp, and he could only get better. I mean, even he doesn't know what his full strength is, but he doubts he will see it unless he does it for no reason but to just see. But it was a waste if he did, so he decided against it. Naruto-kun, I have no real idea," said Kusumi as she lazily laid in her home on the couches, still reading one of the books Naruto had absorbed. He had absorbed a soldier who would manage to get a lucky shot on him when he was just starting up. The book was called 50 Shades of Grey. Don't read if underage. Seriously. Now Naruto didn't know what the book was about, seeing as he had discarded that memory over countless useful memories, and seeing as he can't be bothered to read it, he just lets Kusumi read them when bored, although he did notice that Kusumi had enjoyed the book a lot, and because of that she constantly read the thing over and over. Suddenly a thought struck him: the Kuchiyos, Edo Tensei. Since he had the blood of Hashi, Rama and Madara in him, he could summon them to train with him. Okay, now what to use for the sacrifices part? As Naruto sat down, he had saw some of his clones of his training in Mokudan training and chakra control. He didn't know why, but because of his control, it was a massive habit of him to create clones to continue with chakra control. Next to the group were the medical group, which were just he alling any animal that had been injured near his house, looking to an injured rabbit which was bleeding, then at his clones. A light bulb had appeared above his head, cutting his skin and draining some blood onto the floor. He had made 2 blood clones standing tall. After that he once again drained some more blood, which he had Kusumi mostly make it match Hashirama's and Madara's blood types. He made the hand signs for the Edo Tensei, and soon a large cloud of smoke had appeared. Within the smoke 2 men had appeared, both looking completely different, apart from the same black-colored hair. Both men stood strong. The one on the left had long flat hair that had reached his shoulders with his covered forehead exposed. He had a strong-shaped jaw with black eyes. He also wore some old warring clan-era armor with a black long-sleeved shirt with similar black pants to match. He also had bandages wrapped around his ankles with thin shinobi sandals on. The other man had nearly identical clothing on, except on the armor there was the Uchiha clan logo showing. The man had pitch black hair that was spiking in all directions, and it had also reached the lower part of his back. He stood with his arms crossed and a blank face staring straight ahead of him, although you could see his slight twitch of his eye as if he wasn't planning for this to happen. Wonder why. Deciding to start Off Naruto quickly jumped in front of both of them only to sweat drop as both of them instantly saw the other and jumped to the opposite side of the clearing ready to face off. Until Naruto interrupted. Hi Hashirama. Madara, you guys there? Asked Naruto, tilting his head, which made both ancient shinobi look at him. Can you both please say something? I was kinda looking to talk to you both. About something? Asked Naruto while scratching the back of his head. Hashirama, deciding to find out how he was alive, asked. Not to be rude or anything, but how am I alive along with Madara? Asked Ed Hashirama with a tilt of his head, ignoring Madara's eye twitch that had been more noticeable. Oh, that's easy, I used the Edo Tensei to summon you both, said Naruto like he was talking to an old man who had lost the plot. At this, Hashirama had got pissed and upset. This child had sacrificed 2 people to summon him, and Madara, this isn't right. Who did you sacrifice for use to be here? Said Hashirama in an ominous tone as he slowly clenched his fists ready to kill this kid who no doubt did this for the most horrendous reason ever. Even Madara was kind of shocked at this. A random 13 yay. Our old summoned both him and Hashirama, so that meant that he had to grave rob both him and Hashirama and then sacrifice 2 people to see him and Hashirama. It was different. Oh, you mean the required sacrifice? I simply used some blood clones instead of actual people. Then I had used my blood and focused more into you blood and Madara's, which is being produced through me, said Naruto, now understanding why Hashirama was getting more angry at him. What? Screamed both Hashirama and Madara. This kid had figured a way to use the Edo Tensei without harming someone else, and then said had both of their blood flowing through him. What the hell had happened while they were dead? Yay, it's no big deal actually. I was wondering if you both could help my training in Mokuden and the Sharingan, which I had advanced into the Mangekyo. And no, I didn't kill my best friend for it, I had simply found a better way to do it. So what do ya say? Asked Naruto, staring at them both with a grin. Honestly, it was cool having 2 living legends in front of him, even if he can kick their asses. Sure, I guess, but quick question, how did you get both mine and Hashirama Baka's blood? Asked Madara with a tilt of his head, which still had his straight face while looking at the child in front of him. Well, that's a long story, so I'll tell you while we go to my private training grounds with that Naruto. With Madara and Hashirama following, left through the trees, never to be seen for another 31 days. Chapter 8. Ha, seems to me that I win that one, said Naruto. Sitting on his ass as he had used his massive amount of chakra in 30 days of non-stop training, whether it was for medical and Mokuden Jutsu and control with Hashirama or Gumbai and Sharingan training with Madara. It was the most training he had ever done in his life. It also got him a chance to know the 2 Konoha founders on a somewhat personal level. Hashirama was both a child and a wise man combined into 2. He would act like a wise sage, for a little bit, then completely turn into a kid. He also learned that he had sucked at gambling and that he had taught Tsunade how to gamble, must be why she sucks at it. It reminded him of someone, but he didn't know who. Madara was the opposite, where he was as like most Uchiha. Until either him or Hashirama annoy him enough, then his personality does a full 180 degrees like Hashirama and he turns into a pissed of little kid. It was the best thing he could honestly see. Hell, Kusumi had been laughing every time he had turning Madara into a brooding kid. However, when he and Hashirama had done this the first time, Hashirama had instantly thought that someone had switched places with the reincarnated Madara, which after a few embarrassing secrets about himself proved to be the actual Madara. Who knew he used to sleep with a teddy bear until he was 15? He had got to know their lives pretty well during the time that he had spent with them. But he actually preferred Madara than Hashirama, but not by a lot, just a bit. He had liked to hear Madara talk about his family and how his battles with other clans had ended up. It was cool listening to Madara talk. Because he had high details of the fights, it also helped he could use a genjutsu to make his memories viewable, so he had high detailed fights. At that, Hashirama cried because he couldn't do that. It would have been funny watching him try to boast about his supposed skills during his battles. But one thing was certain when training for the Chunin finals. Both Madara and Hashirama wanted to see how strong were the current generation, thinking that they should be a lot stronger than when they were kids, and by the way Naruto was. At that, Naruto knew they would be disappointed Let them see what the world's shinobi current strength was nowadays. Naruto deciding that since he had one more day before the matches decided to go buy a book to read while he had relaxed in his personal onsen. Which he had noticed was not used at all since the Chunin exams, but it wasn't like it was the end of the world. Walking into the book stand he had immediately started to browse through all the books. After a good 10 minutes of searching he had decided to give up. Walking to the front he had looked behind the clerk and saw a book called The Tales of a Gutsy Ninja, and for some reason, that book had called out to him. Walking around the counter and picking the book up he skimmed the blog at the back and felt a smile worm onto his face. Apparently it told a story about a person named Naruto fighting to bring world peace. While this book had some magic power to know what he would do before he could do it. Buying the book was easy, as the clerk said it was impossible to be sold. So he sold the book to Naruto at the original price and not 3 times the actual amount. Walking out of the bookstore and walking in a random direction, Naruto accidentally bumped into someone. Looking up he was shocked to see who he had walked into. There stood Jiraiya the Sennin just staring at Naruto with an unblinking face. It was kinda of weird. They stood there for a good minute until Jiraiya started talking. "Hey kid, why are you reading that book?" asked Jiraiya, pointing to the worst-selling book of all time which he himself had wrote a few years ago, with them only to be bought and used for starting fires. Hell, his own student didn't like the book much, it was too unrealistic. Well, I guess I like it. I guess the main plot about the character trying to break the cycle of hatred really drawn me in. I guess that it's because that's my dream to get rid of this world's cycle of hatred, said Naruto, staring at the book in his hands while missing the shock on Jiraiya's face. Instantly after he said his dream was to end the cycle of hatred, he decided he wanted to try something. "Kid, why waste your time on a goal that will never be completed?" said Jiraiya in a somewhat serious tone that had pissed Naruto off. "I really don't care what you got to say, old man. If there is such a thing as peace I will find it," said Naruto with literal bright flames hidden beneath his eyes, showing his unstoppable will and determination. Jiraiya was shocked. He had tried to get Mito to believe in world peace, but she doesn't want her life to be wasted on something like that. That had hurt when he had gotten that reply, which had actually caused him to take a walk around the village, which had led him up to a point where he had met his godson or ex-godson who had the same dream as he had himself. Wanting to know the kid better, Jiraiya decided on what to do. "Hey kid, do you want a spar?" asked Jiraiya, with a grin on his face, waiting for Naruto to accept, which he did. He had grabbed Naruto's shoulder and teleported him to training ground 7. "Okay, no kill shots, everything else available ready, old man," said Naruto, getting into a basic boxer stance with his left arm out and his right arm a bit in front of his chest. His legs on an angle and slightly bent, ready to use his speed to destroy the old man. Jiraiya, on the other hand, had simply moved into the Toad stance, which he had gotten taught when he had started to learn Toad's version of Senjutsu. With a silent nod, both figures started to run at mid-jonin speed, both aiming for a punch. Fist met fist and there was a slig HT clap as both fists fought for dominance over the other. Naruto, seeing an opening, grabbed the fist with the same hand he was clashing with, which had shocked Jiraiya as he hadn't ever seen someone try that. Pulling backwards, Naruto threw his elbow at the Sennin's head, which had hit his mark and had the added effect of his rattling Jiraiya's head. Wrapping his arm around Jiraiya's head, Naruto brought a hard knee to the gut, which had forced Jiraiya to spit out a lot of spit. Seeing as Jiraiya was getting over the elbow to the head, Naruto used his left hand to also grab Jiraiya's hand for a and with a quick spin and flick he was sent flying straight through multiple trees. Looking toward the forest, he had sensed that a bit of chakra was held over a certain area, doing a backflip that would make Jiraiya's haymaker miss. He went through 2 hand signs and with a shout shot out the first jutsu that Madara had taught him, Kaden, Great Fireball Jutsu. With that he had shot a massive fireball straight at Jiraiya, who at this moment was cursing. With no other choice he had used a well-known earth jutsu, Doden, Earth Wall. Throwing his arm to the floor and summoning a massive wall of earth, he was shocked at the strength that the fireball had done. It was still going after 30 seconds and it was getting bigger. It was kind of scaring the crap out of him right then. "Old man you surrender and believe that there is a way for peace," said Naruto, still holding the tiger hand sign as he watched the fireball slowly grow in size. The only reason why it hadn't extinguished was Because he was using wind chakra in a constant flow to strengthen it. Fine, I give now, stop that damn fireball brat, said Jiraiya as he was comically crying over the fact that he was beat by a kid, but then again he had heard how this kid was the best of the best, when people had wanted him specifically to do their missions. Well, that was fun, old man Jiraiya, but I gotta go get something to eat. You want to come with me, said Naruto, looking at Jiraiya while also turning his body so that he could start walking. Deciding what the hell, Jiraiya went along with Naruto. He started to pale he had saw Ichiraku and was holding his wallet tightly. Don't worry, old man Jiraiya, I'm paying. I did ask you, said Naruto with a grin, looking at Jiraiya, who had a look of shock on his face. Not once had anyone offered to pay for him. Not his friends, Tsunade, and even his own pupil's family. It was always, you're paying, Jiraiya, or can you hold a tab for use, Jiraiya? I mean, really, he was close to all of them, but not once did they pay for him. Getting out of his shock, he gave the kid a grin, and also a sigh as he was thankful for not paying for ramen. Again, walking through the flaps, Naruto was greeted with the sight of Hinata and Mito sitting there. Shrugging, he took a seat and greeted Ayame, who had come back early for some reason. Hey Ayame, could you get me 3 bowls of chicken ramen and whatever the old man wants, said Naruto while looking at her with a grin when he had heard Jiraiya grumble about being called old. That was before Mito noticed Jiraiya and immediately started talking. Jiraiya-sensei, can you please pay for our ramen, said Mito, looking at him expectantly while holding her hand out, thinking that he would. Jiraiya with a sign almost had held her the cash she would need for ramen, which would be 4D ranks worth. Just as he was about to hand the money over, Naruto ripped it out of his hand, which shocked everyone there. Ya know, old man, I said I was paying, so I didn't want you to pay for anything, said Naruto while folding his arms, which Mito finally noticed who he was. You give me that, I need it for ramen, bastard, said Mito with a scream which could be heard from the outside of the stand. Tilting his head a little, he was going to say something until Hinata had decided to interrupt. You should comply, Dobi, or I will juken you to oblivion in the finals, said Hinata with her eyes glaring at him, which he plainly ignored, which pissed and shocked Hinata off. Don't you have your own money, Mito? Why are you asking for Jiraiya's? Asked Naruto with his tilt of his head still in place. Why? Because I said so. Even father said I could always ask him for money, and it wouldn't even make a dent in his wallet, said Mito with her hair splitting into 9 tail like things which were swaying left and right. It was kinda cool, to be honest. Sigh, whatever, but since I'm paying for Jiraiya, I'll give you what you were getting, pulling out about 4D rank Mishinam ounce. Naruto handed it to Mito, who was shocked someone was paying for Jiraiya but couldn't say anything after he decided to sit down and start eating with Jiraiya, who was snickering at the drama Naruto caused. Hey, I want more than this, I have to pay for Hinata's, said Mito while walking up to Naruto, trying to take his wallet, which he had slapped Mito's hand away each and every time until it got too annoying. About a bet, Mito, instead of me and Hinata fighting, I will fight you, Hinata, and who else wants to fight me on a handicap match? Mito instantly agreed, since she could destroy him and get something out of it. If you win, I will pay for you ramen every day for a year, but if I win, you can't ask Jiraiya for money unless he offers it to you. Deal? Sticking his hand out, Mito instantly grabbed it, thinking he was joking. With that done, Naruto started to walk away, only for Jiraiya to talk. Thanks, kid, it's the first time ever since I didn't have to pay, and it was nice, so thanks. With that, Jiraiya patted Naruto's shoulder while using the Shunshin to teleport away. Shrugging, he walked home. Maybe he could use his new Time Devil attack tomorrow. Chapter 9. Chunin Exams Stadium Cage Seats. Here we see 3 of the cage of the elemental nations sitting in a single booth with 2 guards each. The Raikage had his younger brother B, and a guy with white hair, Darui. The K's cage had no one special, just 2 regular special forces by the name of Dust, and finally the Hokage, who had both Tsunade and Jiraiya standing by him. It was a special day because as soon as the matches begin, the world would see their potential Chunin strength and show who was truly the strongest. Minato, standing up, said in a joyful tone, "The Chunin exams begin." With that, everyone started screaming for the first match to begin. Sitting back down, he had nodded to Genma to call out the matches. With a slight nod, Genma started calling the first match. The first matches is a handicap match that had B requested by the challenger Naruto Uzumaki. When he had said that everyone was shocked, the brat had requested to fight against multiple people. Was he an idiot? The match will be Naruto vs Hinata Hyuga. Mito Uzumaki Namikaze and anyone of the genin who want to participate, please come down for the fight now. With that, Mito and Hinata had appeared in a regular shunshin, while Sasuke had appeared in a fire shunshin. Waiting for a bit, Genma had called Naruto's name once more and had given him a time limit of 5 minutes. At the final count of 1, a huge thunderstorm had appeared, with natural red lightning with black lighting mixing into the storm. While this was going on, the Raikage was having a heart attack. Red lightning and black lightning. What the hell is this village feeding their kids? Soon a thunderbolt hit the center of the arena, showing of Naruto Uzumaki, still looking the same as always, with his signature jacket on. Walking up to the center of the ring, Naruto called Ed out in a joyful tone. So are we going to start or what? Asked Naruto with a grin which had made everyone crack a small smile at his relaxed tone. Coughing to get the attention back, Genma decided to begin the match. Okay ladies and gentlemen, I give you the first ever Chunin exams handicap. Begging. With that, Genma jumped back, starting the match. Seeing this, Mito rushed at Naruto at mid-Chunin speeds while aiming for a high leg kick, which Naruto had ducked, only to dash to the right, avoiding Hinata's palm strike that would have destroyed his lung, if the positioning was something to base off of. Doing a backflip and landing a few meters away from the center of the exam arena, only to do a helicopter spin kick, when Mito had tried to jump him. Stopping from his spin, he had flipped back into a standing position. Tilting his head a little, he had saw Hinata's fingers fly past him, throwing his arms up and grabbing her forearm and then spinning until Hinata's arm was behind her back. Reading a bio kunai, he held the blade to her neck. Surrender now and Hinata will not be injured. Hinata, while scared, knew Mito would help her within a few seconds, so she waited. And waited and once again waited. Mito on the other hand had charged up a Rasengan ready to pounce on Naruto while he was holding Hinata. She was sure her friend could dodge and get away from the dead last, so with a war cry she dashed forward, only seeing Naruto's shocked face, along with Hinata's. Stadium. Hinata, quick dodge it, shouted Hiyashi while clutching his youngest daughter's hand. Hanabi. Nei-chan, move away, screamed Hanabi watching Mito speeding towards Hinata and Naruto with a Rasengan. Naruto was shocked. Really, she had ignored her friend's position and was heading straight for them, and he had no time to throw Hinata away without making her smash through the entire stadium. Seeing no other choice, Naruto disposed his bio kunai and turned Hinata around and put his back in Mito's position. While holding Hinata close to his chest, which had the effect of Hinata blushing, not that he could have seen. Mito, thinking that Hinata had switched positions with Naruto, added Kyuubi's chakra in to her Rasengan, making it glow from a light blue into a deep red spiraling sphere. Thrusting her hand out, she hit her mark. Flying through the air with a chunk of his back gone, Naruto twisted his body to make sure Hinata didn't go through the wall, hitting the wall with full force. Naruto's body had made a man-sized hole with dust flying everywhere. Mito, waiting for a few seconds for the dust to clear, was shocked at what she saw. There Naruto was holding Hinata to his chest, while having one of his arms ripped off, his spine sticking out of his body and one of his eyes popped out of his head, but through all of that, Hinata was fine, while looking a bit green at Naruto's current state and a bit of pink on her green face at the fact she was still being held by Naruto, even after the damage Mito had given. But she wasn't the only one shocked. Everyone in the stadium had been shocked silent as they had watched Naruto take the blow for the female Hyuga and then held onto her as he had been sent through a wall. But what had also shocked them was that Naruto was 1. Still alive and 2. Still conscious and wasn't screaming out in pain. But when they watched how he had taken an attack that would have hit the Hyuga, which really turned a lot of heads. The demon they had all accused had defended a girl who had, apparently, wanted to make him into her clan's slave and personal punching bag. A demon doesn't do that. So, were they wrong? Cage booth. The 3 Cage just sat there staring. How could they not? They had seen a genin take on a full-powered Buji-enhanced Rasengan to the back, and then being shot through a wall, while also making sure that the girl he was holding was safe. Then came to his current appearance, which had shocked them straight to hell. A genin took All that, and had not once screamed out in pain, and had not only somehow avoided death, but he also was conscious. Just wow. Arena. Hinata. Okay, said Naruto, wincing in pain as he needed to absorb some of his sealed biomass to heal the injuries he had currently had going on him. If not, a Phoenix Sage mode would do, and he doubted that people would like seeing him consume extra biomass. So he was going to need to go Sennin Moto to heal enough to fight. Hinata, staring at his blue eyes, slowly brought her hand up to his face, or what remained of his face, and brought it down close to hers. I'm fine. Thank you for saving me, and sorry we couldn't be friends, since I doubt even you won't make it out of this alive, said Hinata, kissing his cheek and slowly opening his arms and slowly rolled out of the hole in a wall as to not cause him more pain that he was possibly feeling. Had she looked at his face, a smile could be seen as he moved into a meditation position to start gathering nature chakra for Phoenix Sennin Moto. Walking away from the hole in the wall with her head down, Hinata had remembered what had happened a few minutes ago. Mito blindly forgetting her safety, and Naruto risked his safety for hers when she had been nothing but horrible to the few times she had talked to him. Looking up, he saw Mito grinning at her. That grin pissed her off straight away. Good job, Hina-chan, we won because you had captured him so I could use my Rasengan, then you used him as a shield. Good job, said Mito with a toothy smile and thumbs up. That was until she had remembered something, or rather someone. Hey, where's Sasuke? Asked Mito as she had not saw him fight at all. Looking around, she had saw him sitting on the floor looking bored at her. On the roof of Cage Booth. Well, Madara, I guess most of your clan inherited your stick-up-the-ass attitude, said Hashirama, while looking at the conversation going on between the 4th Hokage's daughter and the Uchiha kid. Shut up, Hashirama Baka, I don't have a personality with a stick shoved up my ass, got that, tree hugger, said Madara while making the wind blow his hair out while staring at the hole Naruto currently occupied with interest. Naruto had reminded him of Izuna, one of his younger brothers, when he had become serious in certain situations. He would be a problem for Project Tsuki no Mi, but at least it would be fun to fight him later on. After all, there was no better feeling than defeating a strong opponent. Once again looking at the hole, he spoke up. Looks like Naruto's charged up an Yield, said Madara with his Sharingan spinning, as he wanted to see one of Naruto's 2 Sage modes in action. Genma, who finally had gotten out of his shock after the conversation started, to call the Watch out. Due to likely death, Genin Naruto Uzumaki has lost the Ma. BOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO There was Naruto Uzumaki alive and kicking. Along with being entirely healed, then also came the fact of his flying with fire consuming his entire body. Naruto's appearance also had changed a bit, as in his cloths now looked like they were made of flames as the edges of all his cloths started to flicker and move as if possessed. Then also came to the look of his face. His whisker marks had thinned more and became defined, his eyes were a deep orange color with a slit pupils and with orange pigments surrounding his eyes, toad sage mode pigments with a little change. Naruto, enjoying himself, decided to call out what technique he was using out to the world. Floating down into the arena with his feet touching the ground, Naruto looked up at everyone in the stadium and called out his new form. Name's Naruto Uzumaki. The first ever multi-phoenix and dragon sage. When he had said that multiple things had happened, every civilian was had wide eyes and their jaws hanging on the ground. The shinobi below Jonin were looking at Naruto. Then back at the hole in the wall before passing out, the Jonin blinked and stared shocked. The cage were having heart attacks due to the fact Naruto apparently had a summoning contract with the phoenixes and dragons. Even though they didn't know if Naruto really did have the dragon contract and had become a sage. For the phoenixes and the rest of the rookie 15, well, they were hyperventilating with Shikamaru being the only genin who hadn't looked like he was going to pass out from shock. Mito, Hinata and Sasuke however just stepped back in shock as Naruto was standing there, perfect. Fine as if he hadn't had his spine sticking out of his back and half of his body and limbs gone. However, Hinata quickly got over her shock and raced to him and hugged him, noticing that she wasn't being burned at all. How are you alive? Asked Hinata, looking up at her savior, who at this moment was scratching the back of his head and grinning slightly at Hinata. He had answered her. Oh, that's simple. As a phoenix sage I can come back to life or heal from anything if I can go into this form fast enough, so I just took the time I was in the hole in the wall to transform into sage mode, said Naruto with a grin, looking at Hinata's face go through multiple expressions before just staring blankly at Naruto, then just nodding before she called out to Genma that she surrendered. After that she went to her father and passed out on his lap. Snickering, Naruto looked at both Mito and Sasuke and then fluctuated his chakra high enough to make both Mito and Sasuke go on their knees. Do you both give up? Said Naruto, looking at the two of them. Seeing Mito shake her head along with Sasuke, he disappeared and appeared next to Mito and knocked her out before chucking her towards the Rookie 15 area. Dropping his Sage mode, which Naruto only needed to use to heal himself after the Bujira Rasengan, Naruto walked across the field before speaking up again. Sasuke Uchiha, is it true that only an Uchiha defeat another Uchiha? Asked Naruto, looking at Sasuke, who had returned his cocky smirk back onto his face. Of course, only the elite can defeat each other. It's not possible for Uchiha to lose against other weak clan members, said Sasuke, looking towards Naruto while crossing his arms, ignoring other clans being pissed off at him for that remark about their clans. Oh, okay then, how about I kick your ass then? Asked Naruto before appearing next to Sasuke and volley kicking Sasuke in the ribs, which had sent him flying toward the arena wall. Appearing once again, Naruto grabbed Sasuke's leg by the ankle, then chucked Sasuke across the arena while appearing at random intervals and either kicking Sasuke or throwing him around more. The Uchihas who had been watching the match winced at the damage Naruto had been giving Sasuke for the past few minutes. Catching Sasuke by the scruff of his shirt, Naruto couldn't help but let out a sigh as the new gravity seals made him even weaker to AP. His normal taijutsu attacks are only mid-jonin and his strongest attacks are about mid to high cage level. Looking at Sasuke, once again asking for Sasuke to submit only to get no answer, looking down at Sasuke, he saw Sasuke pull out some pieces of paper and could only wonder what they were. In the stands, two people started sweating. What ya got there, Sasuke? Asked Naruto, looking at Sasuke, who had looked at him with an evil grin, throwing the cards up and using the Shunshin to get away. Everyone looked at the photos that Sasuke had thrown up. When Naruto saw one of the photos, he dropped to his knees. He watched as all the photos Sasuke had thrown up land in an almost perfect semicircle around him. Now normally Naruto wouldn't have cared about random photos, but the photos he had seen got his entire interest. There around Naruto were pictures of both Toki and Satsuki, naked with Sasuke and Kiba. Everyone watched Naruto look through all the photos and could only feel sorry for him. Whenever someone saw him, Toki and Satsuki, they always thought that Naruto would cheat on them and be horrible to them, but that was once again proven wrong after thinking on it for a bit. Every civilian could only watch on as Naruto moved his head side to side looking at each picture. Sasuke, who had taken the time to heal a bit, launched at Naruto, kicking him in the head, and then started to rain down blows on the side of Naruto's cranium as Naruto didn't respond while looking straight at the side of a wall with blank eyes. After a few minutes of wailing on Naruto, which had discussed most of the civilians because of the fact that someone would do both the photos and physical damage to someone, Sasuke stood up and started to wrap Naruto up in wires and attach him to a wall. Also holding up the tiger seal. Well, Dobi, it was fun defeating you. Now, as a favor for Satsuki, time for you to die. With that, Sasuke sent a large fireball flamethrower straight at Naruto. Stadium. Ellipsis. Reserved Genin area. Reserved Chunin area. Reserved Jonin area. Ellipsis. Cage booth. That is inhumane. So much for Konoha as a peace-loving villa. Ge, grunted the Raikage as he couldn't believe what that Uchiha had done to the blonde with red-tipped hair kid. That was interesting, said the Kazekage while looking at Sasuke with hidden glee. But he fourth Hokage could only look at the pictures that his ex-son had seen, and could only imagine if Kushina had done that to him, how traumatized would he be from it. Then looking at the fireball flame thrower which Sasuke was still powering, he could only imagine his ex-son being burnt to ashes. Roof or cage booth. Hashirama started to tear at what he had saw. It was truly saddening. Naruto had talked quite a lot of Toki, who was related to him, and Satsuki when they were relaxing or just talking. It hurt seeing his student and friend look like that, even worse as he couldn't help him due to exposing himself in Edo Tensei form. For Madara however it reminded him of his own tragedy before Izuna's death. Like Naruto he had loved the woman he had chosen to be his girlfriend with all his heart. He would have sacrificed himself for her, but like Naruto, he had been cheated on. It hurt so much he had become even more colder than he was when he was a child, but what was worse were the fact that everyone knew and no one told him. All that time with someone who was faking it hurt. He probably could have found someone who had truly loved him if he had knew later on after recovering from it, but he had only found out before he was going to ask her to marry him. It was because of that he could relate to Naruto on the subject on a personal level, even though he wouldn't admit it. Because of Naruto he and Hashirama had become friends again, along with Naruto also joining their friendship. Although he would continue with Project Tsuki no Mi, he would gladly like to meet both Hashirama and Naruto after his endgame had finished. Guess he will see what happens then. Naruto before Fireball, Flamethrower hit. Naruto couldn't do anything, he just kept remembering all the photos of his girlfriend and Kiba and Sasuke screwing with each other, and then a picture of them both holding a pregnancy test with a positive mark on it. The once impossible pillar of Naruto Uzumaki broke, finally cracking under all that he has been through. Naruto cried. He had lost two of the most important people he had held within his heart, and what was worse, Toki and Satsuki had played along with it. Kasumi could only shed tears for her container. Drawing him into the seal, she had her miniature fox form wrap around his neck and nuzzle his face in an attempt to help her container with his problem. It is time, Naruto. The next thing Naruto knows, he is in a purplish room with a single man sitting midair while holding a staff with large circle rings on the end lying flat against his legs. The man had appeared to be the age of around 300. If the fact he had many wrinkles, the old man also had short spiky white hair with two horns. He also had white chin hair that went to his chest, maybe a bit longer, but what really stood out, apart from the horns, was the figure's purple eyes staring directly at him. "Welcome Naruto Uzumaki, I am sorry you are here at a young age," said the man while looking at the boy before him. "My name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of the six paths," said the man, now identified Hagoromo Otsutsuki, staring at Naruto. Raising his hand up, he slowly brought it on Naruto's head. "Naruto Uzumaki, will you be the one to bring true peace to the world?" asked Hagoromo as he stared into Naruto's blue eyes and bringing Naruto to a new place altogether. Chapter 10. "Yeah, way to go Sasuke," screamed most of the Rookie 15 as they watched the fight go on. Sasuke was definitely the strongest of them all, seeing how he had taken down Naruto almost instantly after the pictures were shown. People in the stands who heard cheering looked at the group with disdain. That was not a match, that was nothing but a cheap shot that should not had happened ever. The cages also couldn't help but feel disdain when he saw other groups of genin start to cheer as well. The Raikage looked down to see if Team Samui was cheering. He was thankful they weren't. Sasuke, who had just ended his fireball flamethrower, just looked at the smoke cloud with glee. Now the thing that was stopping his and Satsuki's relationship from being public was out of the way. He could officially claim her for his own. Turning his back to the cloud, he started to walk towards the stairs, only to get nicked by a kunai that looked like the Hokage's Hiraishin kunai, but this one, instead of having massive pongs on the side of the main blade, had sharp thin blades. The kunai also had these pongs pointing down toward the hilt. That was all Sasuke could have seen before feeling his head being hit by a freight train, or what felt like it. Everyone gasped as the figure slowly stood up from his kneeling position. The figure's face was soon revealed after the dust from the speed shown disappeared. What shocked them was the person. Uzumaki Naruto, or what looked like him. This Naruto had white hair with crimson tips and had two horns sticking up from the sides of his forehead. He also didn't have his whisker marks adorned on his face. The cloths that he was wearing were pretty much the same except the coloring, which was mainly white with black symbols. But what had really caught everyone were his eyes. They were the Uchiha's clan's dojutsu with a weird design. The Uchihas in the stadium couldn't help but gasp in his eyes. Fugaku, who was shocked at what he saw, couldn't help but scream what he had said. The Mangeikoi Sharingan. He was so shocked how the Uzumaki brat got a pair of Sharingan eyes in the first place, almost missed what the boy had said. Close but no cigar. These aren't Mangekyo Sharingan. These are my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. To prove his point, Naruto started flaring out his power, making his M's shine with a pure crimson glow. Everyone was shocked at this, especially the Uchihas. There was another Sharingan stage after the Mangekyo. How did this non-Uchiha gain it, and more importantly how? Sasuke, who was shocked at what he saw after he was kicked, activated his Sharingan and attempted to attack him. You dare steal those eyes? You scum, they don't belong to a nobody like you. Only to an elite Uchiha like me. Throwing a punch out, he watched as his body phased through Naruto's. Getting up, he tried to kick him and once again, phased through him. By now the cage were sweating seeing an ability like that, the Raikage, because that would make fighting him impossible with Jutsu since it seemed to only affect it so far. The cage was shocked and silently planning on capturing the boy during the invasion. And finally the Hokage and his wife, who had been next to him the whole time. It was the same ability that the masked man had when he released the Kyuubi from Kushina. How did Naruto get that ability? Hell, how did he get the Sharingan? Seeing how people were looking at him, Naruto cracked a small smile. He really does like being the center of attention. But you all shouldn't be shocked at this form, because the next form will truly blow your mind. Also, I got to thank Sasuke for the pain it took me to unlock these, but I would have been happy without it, because it almost made me lose myself to my rage and hatred. So without further ado, feast your eyes to my new Dujutsu. As soon as Naruto said that, he slowly pushed more chakra into his eyes, which had resolved in their slow upgrading, as people watched his eyes change from red to a full purplish gray. Some shinobi started to sweat knowing only a certain Dujutsu that was that color. Soon his eyes seemed to gain black circle-like rings around a tiny pupil. Okay, now the shish. Anobi who knew of the Dujutsu were sweating. Holy shit, he had something everyone thought was legends. On top of the cage booth. Madara, do you think he has the Rinnegan? Asked Hashirama as he stared down at his student with shock. He was literally seeing with his own eyes the famed Dujutsu of the Sage of the Six Paths. Madara was also shocked. His friend had gained the Rinnegan like he had. He was seriously gaining a Dujutsu that he had only gained when on his deathbed. It excited him. The next time he would fight Naruto, he would make sure that it was a no-holds-barrel fight. Yes, he could imagine it now. His Susanoo versus his Kyuubi chakra mode. It will be glories like his and Hashirama's Susanoo and Wood Golem. Yes, he is. It's amazing, said Madara, answering Hashirama's question, still looking towards his student. Will you both shut up? I got the cameras you wanted. Tobirama, stop being an ass and help them set up, said a voice behind the two. Turning around, both Hashirama and Madara had seen Tobirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki walking towards them with a tripod and camera. While during training, Hashirama and Madara wanted to record the matches and make a documentary of Naruto's current life. They wanted to measure how he fared against regular day challenges and the likes compared to their own, also because they got bored sometimes. The reason for Tobirama and Mito Uzumaki being there was because while Naruto was doing good at their chosen subjects, i.e. taijutsu, kenjutsu, ninjutsu, medical ninjutsu and their special abilities, they couldn't help much for his nature transformation. Deciding since Naruto's water affinity was really high, they had summoned Tobirama and got him caught up to date. After a while, Naruto was asking about Fuinjutsu, and while Tobirama was a genius in it, he was no Mito Uzumaki, so because they had revived Mito as well. It was a sight seeing Hashirama crying while holding his wife, who was patting him on the back while her eyebrow was twitching ferociously. Naruto had even taken a picture of it. Grunting, Tobirama accepted and started to help Hashirama and Madara. Mito, while looking down at the arena, couldn't help but smile at her apprentice. He was a literal sponge when it came to absorbing knowledge. It also helped he could make thousands of clones to work on different things. He was a true prodigy with a stick not shoved up his ass. Sure, he would gloat sometimes, but a smack to the head and a Fuinjutsu sticky bomb and he would be quite good kid. Looking toward Madara, Hashirama, and Tobirama, she asked a question that had made both Madara and Hashirama shiver in fear. Madara, Hashirama, why is Naruto's hair white with red tips and is that horns? Also, why does he have the Rinnegan? As soon As she said that Hashirama had replied that he had to start rolling the camera, Mito looking from Hashirama found Madara hid hand sign for the Shunshin too scared to do it without the hand sign, who wouldn't Uzumaki women are scary. Now Madara care to explain why Naruto looks different. Seeing as now Tobirama was also interested he had filled them both in which is why he had two cage Bushin's whole. Ding Tobirama and 30 holding onto Mito's legs while the rest of the 100 were holding on to hear back, while trying to calm her down. This is my final dujutsu. The Rinnegan, shouted a familiar voice. The 4 ancient shinobi looked down to see Naruto in a pose with his Rinnegan out showing the world. Looks like I have to teach him some more manners, said Mito in a mumble. Arena, this is my final dujutsu. The Rinnegan, shouted Naruto while holding his special kunai in a reverse position while looking out to Sasuke and the rest of the Uchiha and crowd. Ellipsis. Oh, and I'm also kind of related to the sage of the 6 paths now since he combined all of my blood, which had the blood of Senju, Uchiha and Uzumaki together, the Namikaze part got destroyed. And I also had the sage of E6 paths give me his memories of his techniques and along with his chakra which was similar to mine, Suye cool right. Said Naruto scratching the back of his head and having a sheepish grin on his face. Thud, 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 was the only sound he could hear. Looking around he saw some people start to faint for no reason whatsoever. Looking at Sasuke his face went into a serious expression. Now Sasuke, since we are in a match, I ask if you would kindly give up, otherwise I will have to knock you out, okay? When Naruto said that he place a little bit of his current chakra out, ONL. Why does sweat drop as Sasuke passes out with foam spilling out of his mouth while also twitching his leg. Shrugging he hefted Sasuke up and spear threw him towards Itachi, who had been blasted through the wall with his brother in his arms. Blinking Naruto looked at his arms, to see his gravity and resistance seals were still on their numbers. He had entered the arena beforehand, damn it, now he needed to use more. Or he could just take it all off and learn to control his own strength. Yay, that will be better. So who's next? Asked Naruto while looking up towards the rookie 15 and Genin areas, SW. Eat dropping even more when he saw that nearly everyone put their hands up and surrendered. Yo Hokage-sama, Raikage-sama and Kazekage-sama, you mind if I just fight all the remaining Genin as I need to know my current strength level? Oh, since I'm related to the sage, can you change the name from Naruto Uzumaki to Naruto Otsutsuki? Said Naruto looking up at the cage booth where the cage were still gaping in shock. Deciding to also see his new power, they allowed Naruto to fight against the Genin if they had chosen to. Funny how the rest of the Genin surrendered when the cage allowed the white-haired kid's request. Well, all except the sand kid with red hair and cyan-colored eyes. The kid also had black circles around his eyes, giving off the idea that he hasn't slept in a long time. Gaara wears the same stuff as in canon, along with everyone else. Also imagine Satsuki wearing a similar outfit to Sasuke and Toki wearing a similar style like Hana Inuzuka, so's I can't write good descriptions without forgetting something. Mother will have your blow off, screamed the child while holding his head and dropping down to the floor. Seeing this, Naruto appeared next to the child and put his hand on the top of his head. Closing his eyes he went into the Jinchuriki's mindscape. Inside the mindscape he saw a massive desert with an equally large pyramid in the center, sun shining to it. He walked in to see Shukaku torturing his current Jinchuriki. Walking up to them, Naruto used his yin release to make an indestructible glass shield to protect the child. Shukaku instant L. Why noticed Naruto when the shield appeared. Looking at Naruto, the sand raccoon could only start to tear a bit when he finally found what he was looking for. You really are two Sans reincarnation, aren't you? Asked Shukaku while looking down at Naruto. Looking up at Shukaku, Naruto floated up to Shukaku's head then started to rub the giant raccoon's head a bit. No, I am not your two Sans reincarnation. I am the carrier of his will, and like he had done in the past, I will bring peace toward our world, maybe even to the world outside of ours, said Naruto, still rubbing Shukaku's head, who was laying down and having a big smile on his face at being petted and doted on. However, that came to an end when he heard a kid's voice. Hello, mister, can you help me? I can't ever sleep and I am always hurting. Please make it go away. Naruto looking down saw a small version of the kid he was fighting holding onto a small teddy bear. Floating down to the kid he stuck his hand out and said in a kind tone, "Hey, what's your name?" The kid looked startled that he would actually talk to him, especially when he had asked him. "Gigi Gaara," said the now-named Gaara fearfully, until he had heard the man's voice once again. "Well, Gaara, I can say you are a strong boy, who is lucky to have Shukaku in him. While he looks big and scary, it's only because he hadn't had anyone to play with him for a long time. I'm sure he would like to be your friend now, right, Shukaku?" asked Naruto, looking up at the massive raccoon who soon transformed into a smaller raccoon, like how Kusumi can. Gaara, looking at Shukaku, walked up to him. Teddy, still in his hand, asked him if it was true and if he wanted to be friends with him. Shukaku could only apologize for all the pain Gaara had suffered through and accepted his friendship. The two could only smile at each other. "There ya go. Now you two are all buddies. Now how about I fix your seal so that Shukaku can help you out, okay?" With that said, Naruto started to go through hand signs, Raikudo Sennin style, Gate of the Six Paths. From there a huge wooden gate appeared at the entrance of the pyramid. "There ya go, now that you have a proper seal, you and Shukaku can play and become better friends. But don't think I won't be your friend to Gaara, because me and you are similar. I also had been hurt by the people I loved, hell you saw it just then. But I truly think we can become best friends, Gaara, so I'm putting a seal here that will allow us to talk to each other, and yes, that means you to Shukaku," making Shukaku's tiny paw lower after hearing that. See, losing his Rinnegan eyes, Naruto could tell that they had been there for a good 15 minutes, while only being a single second on the outside. "So Gaara, come here for a second." Seeing that Gaara walked up to him, Naruto stuck his hand out, which Gaara had grabbed, and then weird squiggly lines appeared on his arm. "That to release Shukaku so that you can go full-tailed beast mode, along with having an added effect of releasing any other seal place on you if you don't know about it." Thinking about something, Naruto also clicked his fingers in a shocked way. "Oh, so that's what the seal was holding." "Hey Gaara, did you ever meet your mother?" asked Naruto, looking toward Gaara. Seeing his head shake no, he clicked his fingers, which had opened a portal up and made a woman appear. "Well Gaara, I will see you on the outside, okay? Introduce your mother to Shukaku for me. Also, I strengthened your seal so that she can be in here forever until you die, so catch up with her, okay?" With that, Naruto appeared from Gaara's mindscape, missing the family reunion taking place. Arena. Naruto slowly stood up and held out a hand for Gaara. When he had appeared out of Gaara's mindscape, Gaara, seeing the hand, grabbed it and stood up. Then he hugged Naruto as if he was hugging a long-lost relative. That shocked every person from Suna and gave a few of them heart attacks. "Well, since that's done, hey Orochimaru, how badly do you want your ass to be cooked? Well done or medium rare?" said Naruto, looking up toward the cage booth. All shocked that another Naruto had a kunai to the cage's neck, or Orochimaru's neck, as the mask veil was removed. What the hell had happened? Chapter 11. Gasp. There was newly named Naruto Otsutsuki standing behind the S-ranked criminal Orochimaru with a special looking kunai in his hand in reverse grip and pointing the tip to Orochimaru's throat. No one could be more shocked than Orochimaru. Quickly trying to move, he felt his head smash into the floor. Looking up, he was shocked that he was in the middle of the arena with Naruto holding his head down. Naruto, summoning 4 cage bushins, nodded to them. With the 4 clones nodding back, they each went the edges of the arena and slammed their hands down onto the floor. Raikudo Sennin Art. Barrier of the Buji. 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 Shouted the 4 clones as a light gray barrier started to rise out of the ground at a fast pace. Soon the whole arena was connected in the light gray, see-through barrier. Orochimaru, seeing no choice, decided to start the invasion. "Attack!" screamed Orochimaru from his down position. Hearing the command, the sound and sand shinobi started to move. Only to find that they couldn't. "They can't move, Orochimaru, because I won't let them," said Naruto, looking up. As everyone tried to move and failed, they looked up with their eyes and gasped as a purplish barrier was also there. Looking towards their leaders, they were shocked that they too couldn't move, especially the ninjas, since the cages were supposed to be the strongest people their villages. "What have you done, brat?" screamed Orochimaru, who had noticed that he could move his body perfectly fine. Struggling under the brat's arm, he quickly replaced himself with a log and stood across the arena towards Naruto. "Hamo, you mean stop your entire invasion and all?" Well, that would be telling, but since I got all the time in the world, I'll tell ya. Orochimaru, what you are witnessing is my first and my most powerful and versatile jutsu, the Time Devil. Currently I have my Time Devil Fuinjutsu marker on my special kunai here, and with it I can control time and space to a full extent. While my ex-father's Hiraishin can teleport him in a flash, I can control all space and time that is in my radius. Currently I can create a radius of Konoha and a bit, but in a few years I should be able to make it across the entire elemental nations. This is truly one of the most powerful jutsu there will ever be created for a looning time, trust me. With that said, Naruto start Ed to get into the Uchiha interceptor stance that Madara had taught him. Well, Orochimaru, don't disappoint me. I haven't gotten to fight at my full strength in over a while, so I can't really control my own strength and speed ready. As soon as Naruto said this, he disappeared with a sonic boom following him. After a couple of seconds, Orochimaru tried to see Naruto, only to get a knee to the gut and then an elbow to the back of the head. Flying at the speed of sound, Orochimaru bounced off the barrier with a thud. He looked up to see Naruto already in front of him while eating a bowl of ramen. Eaten. A bit of his noodles. Naruto started to talk. Ya know, if this is what S-rank shinobi are, then I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, really, you couldn't do anything against that basic combination of a knee and elbow. This is really disappointing, Orochimaru, said Naruto, still eating his ramen as he watched Orochimaru try to stand up, only to fall down. However, while Orochimaru was falling, he did hand signs for his most regenerative jutsu, Orochimaru style substitution. With that, Orochimaru opened his mouth as two hands had spread his mouth wide open. Soon a fully healed Orochimaru had hopped out of his old decomposing body. Looking towards Naruto, Orochimaru opened his mouth wide once again, and regurgitated the Kusanagi blade, which is said to be able to cut through anything and not break. Holding the sword in front of him ready to attack, he wasn't expecting Naruto to sweat drop at him and shake his head. Hey Orochimaru, do you even know how to use that sword? I mean, you're not even in a proper Ken Jutsu stance. Seriously, I can spot over 100 holes in your stance and it's not even funny, said Naruto, looking at Orochimaru, hearing that a certain perplet who tried to raise an eyebrow at the accusation from her frozen position. What are you on about, brat? I am the snake Sanin Orochimaru. You should be bowing at my feet, you swine. With that, Orochimaru charged at Naruto, aiming to cleave Naruto's head from his shoulders. Blinking, Naruto watched as Orochimaru charged at him at a ridiculous speed of a snail. Even without his Time Devil, he could probably follow everyone's movements, even his ex-father's, when using the Hiraishin. Drawing out his bio sword, he moved the blade to the right to parry the soon-to-be-coming blow from the snake Sanin. Swinging his sword at the haired child, he watched as the Kusanagi blade shattered when in contact with his weapon. Looking at the once unbreakable Kusanagi blade handle, he started shacking as Naruto looked at his direction. Soon an unbearable pain had erupted from his left arm. Looking down, all he saw was a stump with blood gashing from it. Using the shunshin to get away, he felt that he was safe, until he felt his left leg also get cut. Falling to his side, Orochimaru saw only one possible way to escape, throwing his hand out and slamming it into the ground. Everyone was shocked to see 3 coffins rise from the ground, each barring the kanji from 1 to 3rd. At this, the 4th Hokage was sweating. Orochimaru was using the Edo Tensei and was going to revive the first 3 Hokages. This was bad, like really bad. Watching as the coffins rose up, Naruto couldn't help but grin cheekily as he was going to take a picture of Orochimaru's face when he sees that only one of the 3 he had attempted to summon would appear. Thud, 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 ellipsis. Where am I? Asked an old man, while looking out toward a child with white hair and horns. Looking down, he had seen that he had cracks up in his skin, instantly telling him that this was his sensei's Edo Tensei technique. Looking around, all he saw was 2 other coffins with no bodies inside of them and Orochimaru, his ex-student, squirming on the ground with his left arm and leg gone. That kind of shocked him, as he had no idea why Orochimaru was like that. Looking up, he saw the kid with white hair taking a photo of something. Looking down, he had finally saw why the kid was taking a camera shot. Orochimaru looked like he found out someone put lemons in his mouth. That's not possible. Where are the other cage? Screamed Orochimaru, then dragging his eyes to Naruto. He saw the grin that was on Naruto's face. You You did this, didn't you? I'll kill you, you white-haired bastard, screamed Orochimaru, activating a seal that had made him switch places with a redhead girl, who had pale skin and a similar choice of clothing to that of Orochimaru. The girl blinked and looked around only to be seen staring at Naruto with a blank look before dropping to her knees with her head down. Naruto, seeing how Orochimaru had disappeared, tried to sense him and could only just see him and 4 others disappear by reverse summoning, deciding against reversing time to make him return. Due to not wanting people to know that yet, he started to look around the stadium and only seeing everyone still frozen in position. Then Naruto, seeing random shinobi started to glow, saw suicide seals placed on them. The only way to stop them was to kill them, because then they didn't technically commit suicide. Holding his Bio-kunai in a reverse grip in his left hand, NCE again, and his Dragon Archfiend Bio sword, give me ideas for a better name, I'm blanking, in his right hand. All people could see was a white speck before seeing everyone with glowing seals getting killed and then disappearing into nothingness. Now the sand ninjas were shitting themselves. If the kid decided to kill them, there was no way they could have escaped and survived moving their eyes. The white-haired kid standing in the center of the arena, releasing the 3rd Hokage's spurt and finally turning toward the front of the stadium. All the sand shinobi in the stadium, I will not kill you, however. Should you ever attack Konoha once again, I will stop you. However, don't take that as a threat, take it as an initiative to become better allies with Konoha, now that I have helped your Jinchuriki with his seal. I promise you that if you treat him fair, he will help protect you from others, so give him a chance, okay? With that, Naruto ended the time devil technique, which in turn made all the shinobi of the sand village do a short bow before leaving, thinking about what the kid had said to them. Gaara, who had been watching everyone leave, walked up to Naruto and held out his hand. May we meet on a later date, my friend? Grinning, Naruto grabbed Gaara's hand and pulled him into a one-armed hug. Yeah, we will, but don't forget I can still talk to you and Shukaku at any time, okay? So don't worry about it. With that said, Naruto released Gaara, who had walked up to 2 other shinobi, a girl with blonde hair which had 4 spiky pigtails and a dude who was wearing makeup, which he probably stole from the girl's makeup drawer. Seeing the sand shinobi go, Naruto couldn't help but ask the 2 remaining cages in the cage booth. So do I get a promotion or what? Asked Naruto with a cheeky grin on his face. Time skip council chambers. Today we are gathered here to promote the following genin to Chunin, said the Hokage as he and the Raikage stood side by side ready to hand out Chun in jackets to those who graduated from genin to Chunin. First, Shikamaru Nara, who had shown incredible tactical skill in his match against Temari Sabuki. Shikamaru walked toward the Hokage and grabbed his Chunin jacket. A quick thanks and he left, looking for a tree to lay under to watch the clouds. Next we have Samui of Kumo, who had showed amazing prowess in both combat and tactical ability. Samui, walking up to her cage, gingerly grabbed her new Chunin jacket and walked back in the line with a quick mutter of, "Cool," from Samui. And finally Karui from Kumo, please come up and grab your new Chunin jacket. Before a second was up, Karui was next to the Raikage holding her new Chunin jacket with glee. Walking back to the other 2, they were finally excused with the Raikage and his subordinates walking out of the council room. Seeing them leave, he had turned around and walked to his seat and called for everyone's attention. Okay, we are here to discuss Naruto Otsutsuki's positio. N is either a Chunin or a Jonin or even an Anbu if he should choose so make your cases of why he should get those positions. Shikaku, the leader of the shinobi side of the council, stood up. We all believe that Naruto should be either a Jonin or join Anbu. With that said, Shikaku had sat down in his seat. Minato, looking at the civilian council, he saw Suri Haruno stand up. We think that the Emin should not be given a rank at all and should be stripped of his power. She screeched out with her banshee-type voice. What happened next shocked Minato. One of the members stood up and bitch-slapped Suri across the face, knocking her down. Looking toward the Hokage, the man started to speak. Sorry Hokage-sama, but she had said the opposite of what we think. Naruto Otsutsuki should be a Jonin Beck. He had single-handedly stopped an invasion while also crippling Orochimaru, said the unnamed civilian, who then proceeded to sit down. Signing, Minato spoke up once again. Anyone opposed? Asked Minato. And sure enough, Danzo and the elders had their hand held up. And why is that you disapprove of promoting Naruto elders? Asked Minato. waiting for some bullshit reason. The reason Minato is, that's Hokage-sama to you. Continue. Okay, the reason for it was that Naruto couldn't control his own actions. He could have lost control of his demon at any time of the fight. He should be given to Dan Zo to learn his place and train in the Kyuubi's chakra. With that said, the only female elder sat down looking smug, until everyone looked at her like she was on drugs, since not once had Naruto used Kyuubi's chakra. So all agreed for Naruto to gain Jonin promotion. Agreed, said both sides of the council. Also, does anyone have anything against the sound Kunoichi living with Naruto as well? Say, the council shake their heads. Minato started to get up. Standing up and grabbing a Jonin jacket that was slightly different from a regular Chunin jacket, he dismissed the meeting and disappeared in a flash to the holding cells. Naruto's house, 1 p.m. So, I guess this is goodbye, right? Said Naruto, looking at his newest family, which had consisted of Hashirama, Madara, Tobirama and Mito down Abbott. Naruto was surprised that he had felt arms wrap around him. Looking up, he was shocked to see Madara hugging him. Smiling a bit, he hugged the man back. I'll miss ya, Madara ni, same goes to you. Hashirama ni and Tobirama ni stopped being an unethical Uchiha with a stick shoved up his ass. Okay. I'll miss you, and Mito ba-chan, keep Hashirama ni in line. He's more of a kid than me sometimes, aid Naruto. While he was now being held by all four of the shinobi, crying a bit more, he looked up at the four. I'll see you all one day, again, whether it be by Edo Tensei or me dying, I will see you all again. Goodbye. Thanks for being the family I never had. With that, Naruto dispelled the Edo Tensei and watched as everything about the four disappeared. His old blood clones had also dispelled with the Edo Tensei. Looking at the floor with blood soaked into the floor, he summoned some Kajibushin to clean up. Looking at his TV, he saw a picture of all five of his family, 6 if you count K. Usami, who he had managed to summon for a short time. Grinning, he couldn't help but laugh a bit at the photo. He and Mito were smiling at the camera, while in the background Tobirama was grabbing Madara's hair and pulling it, while Hashirama's eye was twitching and Madara was strangling Tobirama. It was hilarious. Ding dong. Placing the photo down, he started his walk to the front of his house. Ending his door, he saw Shisui with a little basket, along with Jiraiya carrying what looked like sake from Mount Myoboku. Grinning, he opened the door wider and let them in. Looking behind them, he had seen Shisui's mother and father along with his little sister Sasha. Allowing them entrance, he watched as more people from Shisui's family come in and hell some of his friends as well, but to be honest, Naruto met all of them through Shisui. He had grown on them and eventually became friends with them. Going to the main room on the bottom floor, he smirked at Shisui, who was trying to turn his XBO X1, which he had gotten while in the advanced world, don't own Xbox. It was funny watching him try to turn it on. Well, it was until he threw a kunai at it and destroyed it. Oh well, he has dozens of them along with other things. Having a clone pick up the broken pieces and put them in the bin, he had went over to his couch and joined Jiraiya and some other Uchihas who had been playing poker for a while. By the time they had finished, it was at around 3:30 a.m. Okay everyone, it's time for Naruto to open his presents now for being a new Jonin and for his birthday, said Shisui, looking at Naruto's stunned face. He knew the kid forgot it was his birthday, and he also didn't know he was a Jonin, so it was so much better. My birthday, how the hell did I forget that? Said Naruto, slamming his hand into his head. God, he was an idiot. Thanks everyone for coming, I guess. Well, who wants to see what I got? Said Naruto. Seeing everyone nod their heads, he stood up and walked to the now massive amount of boxes stacked up against the wall in the corner. How much was in there? But to be fair, it looked like a quarter of the Uchiha clan had popped up, along with some of the toads with Jiraiya. Maybe he should summon Draco and Ria. Why the hell not? Summoning jutsu. Poof. There, standing on their legs, were 3 creatures. The first was a eastern dragon of a red daisy. It had green eyes and a grin on his snout. He was about the size of an average dog in the Inuzuka clan. Next to the dragon appeared a phoenix, which was around the similar size of the dragon, but the phoenix had orange eyes instead of green slit ones. And finally a small fox with 9 tails appeared. That had scared everyone there, but a quick saying that the little fox was helpless made everyone calm down. It also helped Naruto made the little fox purr like a cat, which made most of the females there squeal in joy. "Hey you three, I though you wanted to come to my birthday, so I invited you," said Naruto, staring down at the two summons. Which had immediately jumped him, causing everyone to laugh. Opening his presents, Naruto gained a lot of books about the Sharingan and fire ninjutsu. He even got a few home gifts and coupons. Although he will cherish his free ramen for a year coupon the most, damn Shisui for knowing him so well. But the thing that Naruto liked the most was Shisui's second gift, which was a long-sleeved jacket which had black sleeves and a white vest center. Along with the outfit was pure black Anbu pants along with black fingerless gloves, but to top it all off was the key Tsune mask Shisui had gotten him. It was the best. By the end of the party, when everyone had left, which was at 7 a.m., he heard the bell go again. Walking up to the front, he saw the Hokage, who had bag GY eyelids and the red-head girl from before. Tilting his head a bit, he asked what they were doing here. His reply: "She's your problem now, and the jacket you're wearing now is your Jonin jacket, which has the same design of the back of your old jacket." Okay. With that, he hiroshined away to finally get some sleep. Looking at the girl for a second, Naruto extended his hand. "Hi, my name's Naruto Otsutsuki, what's yours?" "Tayuya, you shithead. Now where can I sleep?" Chapter 13. "Come on, Tayuya-chan. I'm hardly sweating," stated Naruto with both his arms tied up behind his back along with both of his legs wrapped up from the ankles to his waist. "The reason? Training, Tayuya." "Stop gloating, shithead," screamed Tayuya, still panting from the intense, from her side, taijutsu battle. "Well, if you would Naruto body slamming into her when her stance was sloppy or dodging all her attacks, by doing unbelievable bends and tricks. "Hey, not my fault if I'm just that good," stated Naruto, while doing the worm on the ground. Not even trying against Tayuya as she was attacking him with a flurry of kicks and punches. "Shithead, fight me properly," said Tayuya with a scowl, marrying her beautiful face, the add unblemished skin and amazing brown eyes, which Naruto couldn't help but get lost in sometimes. I mean, seriously, they were hypnotic to him. Then add in her hair that started to turn from a reddish pink to a more crimson color. If he got anything from his ex-father, it was probably that he liked redheads the most for some strange reason. Did Kasumi squeal? "Nope. Remember what I said to you, ch. And if you could hit me while I was wrapped up, then I would fight you without being wrapped up in this," said Naruto, looking at Tayuya with a grin, which in turn pissed off the now crimson-haired woman. He really wanted to know why her hair changed color. Tayuya was pissed off to the max right about now. The shithead who she was living with now was taunting her, while laying down on the ground, overed from ankle to waist and restrained, and doing the worm dance on the floor. Yay, she was pissed. Naruto, still doing the worm, who had felt a shiver go up his spine, looked towards Tayuya, and instantly started to crawl away. Normally it would be easy to simply get rid of his restraints, but he had made them where if Tayuya put chakra into the restraints, then they would let him go, which is why he had fought Tayuya in the restraints in the first place. Now why was Naruto trying to crawl away? Oh, that's simple. There, standing across from him, was Tayuya with her crimson hair splitting into 9 tails. He bet Kasumi had something to do with that. Cue evil chuckle, with a red fiery chakra swirling around her. Seeing her walk slowly toward him, he decided that he should split. It was until he remembered that he also added a seal that would not let him use the Hiraishin while wearing the cuffs. Curse him for that. "Sue, you will take me seriously if I hit you. What about if I demolish you?" said Tayuya in a kind voice that had sent millions of shivers up Naruto's back. Although he could be rebirth and heal everything that someone can do to him, it didn't mean that it didn't hurt as much. Laughing in a slightly nervous tone, Naruto tried to get out of the soon-to-be beating. Hey Tayuya-chan, how about we forget this ever happened and I'll take you oot for ramen, how about that? Said Naruto, still crawling away from the enraged redhead, whose expression changed in a heartbeat when she heard Naruto say, taking out to ramen. When she had moved in with Naruto, she had gotten to share the main bedroom with her, taking the walk-in closet and the right side of the room, 2 spade queen-sized beds, with Naruto, because ever since the Chunin exams, Satsuki and Toki had decided to move in with their boyfriends, which had only taken them 10 minutes to pack their stuff, since most of it was already there. Tayuya couldn't really understand why the two cheated on the shithead. For the past few weeks she had slowly started to open up to him, and could honestly say that, for a shithead, he was okay. But the best part, living with Naruto. Being able to afford all the ramen they had wanted. She had never had any ramen before Naruto had introduced her to the stuff. After her first bite, she was the newly dubbed ramen mistress by the Chiraku family because of the large amount of ramen she had, but the funniest thing was that Naruto had held the record of the emperor of ramen, as he had 100 bowls of ramen. Because of that, she had been tormented with the jokes about her and shithead being made for each other. Complete bull. Fine, but you better bring a large wallet, shithead-kun, because I'm going to attempt to take your title and become the queen of ramen, said Tayuya, walking up to him and releasing some chakra into his restraints so that he could pay for the food. Grinning, Naruto bolted up to his and Tayuya's room NT on getting his wallet for the more than likely ramen eating contest. Seriously, Tayuya was an acceptable opponent when it had come to ramen eating. Appearing next to Tayuya after a second, which, in turn, had given her a small shock. As she had seen him use the time devil technique for a few times, mostly for getting around, but it was still amazing, what he had created. Okay, I got the enough for both of us to finish about 300 bowls before a quarter is gone, ramen eating contest, said Naruto, grinning at her, which was replied with a smirk in return. Naruto, holding Tayuya's shoulder, waited for a bit before remembering something. Shouldn't we, I don't know, dress up a bit? I mean, all we do is help you train and eat, so instead of just ramen, how about we go have fun today, like going to a fair and seeing a movie? I mean, I could just teleport yous to a fair in Spring Country or something, said Naruto, looking at the ceiling while holding his chin with his free hand, not noticing Tayuya look at him with blinking eyes. Does he not realize that is what you do when you go out with someone? Is he indirectly asking her for a date? Ellipsis. Ha 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 ha, funny, he probably doesn't know what is a date. Sure, why not? I'll be back in a bit, got to change, I guess. With that, Tayuya ran up the stairs, deciding since Tayuya was getting dressed he might as well. Walking down from his study, where he had a few cloths the Uchiha had given him, he walked down the steps wearing a white long-sleeve shirt with the Uzumaki and Uchiha clan logos on the shoulders, while also wearing a necklace that had CX Magatamas on it with the colors of red, blue, green, violet, yellow and finally orange. He had found this while traveling Japan, and he couldn't help but buy it, and it also helped that it felt connected with him, and getting a free watch with it made it even better. With said watch on his wrist, can be any watch you want. He also wore plain baggy black pants along with black and white Nike shoes, don't own. Looking down at his watch, he saw it was still 8 a.m. Making sure his time devil technique was working, he sat down and picked up the paper and started to read, if time was still going. It would be 15 minutes before Naruto heard the pitter-patter of 2 feet making their down the stairs. Looking up, he gaped. There stood Tayuya wearing a slim cocktail dress, which he had bought from Manhattan. He didn't know why, but Kusumi kept asking him to buy heaps of dresses from the place. Tayuya was secretly enjoying and happy the look she was getting from her white-haired companion caretaker. Walking down with her high heels, she went up to Naruto and pinched his cheek, which had him snapping out of his gapping. Can we go now? I'm going to get hungry, shithead-kun, said Tayuya, looking down at Naruto, hand still firmly on his cheek. Yeah, sure. I'll just know. Ha ha ha, I'm going to shut up now and teleport us there. With that, Naruto grabbed Tayuya's hand and teleported them to the fair in Spring Country. Team 7 did the mission, but it was only counted as AC rank because it was only protection. Tayuya blinked as she saw that she and Naruto had ended up right outside of the fair. Looking at Naruto, she had noticed that he had moved his arm into a triangle. Looking at him weirdly, he spoke up. I'm trying to be a gentleman here and offer you my arm. Also, it helps making others leave you alone, trust me. Sometimes I had a Kajibushin in sexy form to walk around the village with me, so I wouldn't get raped when I went to the grocery to buy some food, said Naruto, still holding his arm out for Tayuya, who had just shrugged and latched on. 3 hours later, and both Naruto and Tayuya were watching the next installment of the Princess Gale movie. It was based off the Konoha ninjas and a mysterious man in a hooded jacket, helping out the Princess Koyuki. Tayuya was amazed at all the techniques the man in black did, while Naruto was grinning and waiting for the ending of the movie. When the time came for the movie to end, it ended off with Koyuki asking who the mysterious man's name, only for his hood to blow off, showing the once blood man, named Naruto. It was funny. Seeing Tayuya's face after that had happened, he could honestly say that her head was moving from the screen to him almost instantly and then repeating the action. It was now 6 p.m. where we now find Naruto and Tayuya sitting at Ichiraku inhaling down their ramen. Both had broken a record there. Naruto broke his 100 ramen bowl record, scoring 123. Then there was Tayuya, who had gotten 99 bowls. Naruto laughed at her for that one more bowl, then she gets to get ramen for a year free, although he isn't going to tell her that. After the fun was over, both Naruto and Tayuya walked up the stairs to their room. Naruto, opening the door, went to his side of the room and fell asleep instantly, when he had hit his head at the pillow. Tayuya, who was drowsy as hell from the fact that she hadn't slept for 3 days if Naruto hadn't done his time devil, was too drowsy and fell asleep with Naruto on his bed. This is going to be a early morning. Chapter 14. Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. So peaceful since the failed invasion. The sun was shining, the civilians and ninjas laughing, dogs barking and birds chirping. It is a perfect and normal day. Until a white streak went flying through the crowds and picking up wind. What the hell? I did not do anything, screamed Naruto as he was sent sailing from his house on top of the Hokage monument by Tayuya, who had woken up after feeling her pillow move. And after she saw Naruto, bam, straight through the wall and off the monument. This currently brings us to the present of Naruto flying through the streets, using his control of wind not to crash into things. Skidding to a stop, he realized that he had managed to get to the front of the village, due to seeing the massive gates. Standing up, he saw the two eternal gate guards sitting in their seats, reading a book. Deciding, what the hell, he walked up to the two. Hey guys, what you reading? Asked Naruto, looking over their shoulders and only seeing some shinobi with stats and rank next to his head. Azuma looks behind him and sees the new and improved Naruto behind them. Oh, it's nothing, just the newest bingo book. I was seeing if I got a higher rank, but sadly I didn't. Kotetsu did though. Which is entirely bullshit. I mean, sure, he got the final hit on AA rank missing Nin, but I had dealt the most damage, said Azuma, looking at Kotetsu's bingo book entry and tearing up a bit. Thud. Hearing a thud, both Naruto and Azuma looked over to Kotetsu and saw that he was staring at the bingo book with a great amount of shock, moving over to the book. Both Naruto and Azuma looked at the page and stared in shock, along with Kotetsu. Bingo book entry 8070, name Naruto Otsutsuki, nickname S. The Time Devil of Konoha. The White Spark. The White Streak. The God of Shinobi. The Raikudo Sennin reborn. Rising Phoenix of Konoha. Ultimate Dragon of Konoha. The Ultimate Ninja, hair color white, eyes blue. Family unspecified, due to multiple bloodlines. Bloodlines: Mokuden, Sharingan. Unknown Sharingan, Mangekyo, Unknown Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyo. Rinnegan also rumored to have a body-based bloodline. Note all bloodlines don't come from his previous family. Description of clothing: what he wore until the birthday. Personality: cheerful and dangerous. He can instantly switch from being a nice person to an unbeatable foe. Ninjutsu: 9-10 didn't use a lot of jutsus. However, due to Sharingan and Rinnegan, believed he can do a large amount of them. Taijutsu: 10 out of 10. He is a speed demon, not even the Raikage and Hokage match up to him. Genjutsu: unknown. However, due to Sharingan and Rinnegan, he may have a large amount. Kenjutsu: unknown. However, he managed to pinpoint hundreds of flaws in Orochimaru's Kenjutsu stance, or so he says. Iriojutsu: unknown. However, he can apparently revive himself and heal any injury when in his Phoenix Sage mode. Fuinjutsu: master. Space-time ninjutsu. Unparalleled base stats. Strength unknown, due to mentioning that he wearing seals. Speed unknown, due to wearing seals. Intelligence: Nara level. Elemental affinities: wind, water, earth, fire, lightning, wood, yin, yang, yin-yang. Extra abilities: summoner of both Phoenix and Dragon. Sage of both Phoenix and Dragon, can produce black lightning and a new red lightning. creator of the ultimate space-time jutsu, Time Devil, likely to be master at space-time ninjutsu. Bounty Kumo, 100,000, 000 yen alive, 0 yen dead Iwa, 200 million yen alive, 100 million yen dead Kiri, 700,000 yen alive, 450,000 yen dead Odo, 300 million yen alive, 900 million yen dead. Rank: SSS do not attack. Flee on sight or even rumor of location. If caught, beg that you are given a merciful death if you are his target. The information provided has been from Orochimaru the Snake Sannin, I the 4th Raikage and Suna citizens. Azumo could only stare from the book to Naruto, while Naruto could only stare at the book. The both of them were broken out of their staring when an Anbu had appeared. The mask the Anbu had worn was a Neko mask. The most distinguishing feature of the Anbu was the purple hair that was showing. Namika Otsutsuki-sama, the Hokage requests your attendance now. With that said, the obviously female Anbu grabbed the still gaping and shocked Naruto by the shoulder and disappeared with the Shunshin heading for the Hokage's office. Hey, have you two shitheads seen where the white-haired shithead went? Asked a familiar redhead walking up to the 2 gate guards. Her only reply was a point to a book. Shrugging, she picked up the book and for the next 20 or so minutes stared blankly at the book. Then slowly started to walk home with said book in tow. Katetsu, she's taking your book, man. Aren't you going to do anything? Said Azumo, finally getting out of his shock only to see that his bingo book had been taken by Naruto. Crying internally, he went to his desk and fell asleep. With Naruto being an SSS rank shinobi, what's the point of trying to stay alert? Hokage office. Appearing within a whirlwind of leaves, both Naruto and Anbu Neko had stepped forward looking at the Hokage, who was looking blankly at the bingo book he had received an hour ago. Looking up, he saw that Naruto was there, also holding a bingo book. Nodding to the Neko Anbu, she instantly disappeared into the shadows of one of the corners of the room. Looking at Naruto, Minato could only sigh. How the hell did this happen? Just as about he was going to speak, the door suddenly barged open. Minato! "Two-san!" screamed both Kushina and Mito, completely missing Naruto, who was once again reading his bingo book entry. "Minato-kun, have you read the bingo book yet? Naruto is in it, and it is said that he has an SSS rank on him." "How is that possible?" asked Kushina, looking and pointing at a page in the bingo book. "Two-san, tell me this is a joke. There is no way that Naruto is that strong and that he has a SSS rank on him," said Mito in a scream. She could not believe it. The dog. He was the strongest shinobi in the whole planet. What is happening here? Minato, looking at them both, could only sigh. "Yes, it's true, Naruto Otsutsuki has reached a rank that not even I have reached," said Minato with a little bit of anger. How the hell did Naruto reach a rank that was not even listed as possible? They said that his SS rank meant that he could possibly destroy a good amount of a hidden village before falling. What would a SSS rank do then? Defeat a whole village. Hokage-sama, what did you need me for?" asked Naruto, who had finally gotten over his shock at what he had read about himself. I mean, sure, he knew he was strong. Kasumi had said so, but to be a rank that no one had ever even thought of. That was just amazing. Hell, the only other shinobi Naruto could think of that would reach SSS rank were Madara, Hashirama, Tobirama and Hagoromo, the sage of the 6 paths. Still, it was kind of cool having his own rank in the bingo book. Getting out of his inner monologue, Minato started to talk, while ignoring Kushina's and Mito's ramblings. "Yes, I called you here to ask if you could go to Kumo for the alliance they had sent a few days prior," said Minato while handing Naruto the alliance treaty that had been written up a few hours ago. "Also, should you take this mission, you will need to stay there for a few days so that the Raikage can sign the alliance along with adding his terms to it as well, okay?" asked Minato, still holding out the envelope to Naruto. Shrugging, Naruto grabbed the envelope from Minato's hand and placed it near a seal on his wrists, and with a poof, the envelope was gone. Minato nodding his head as thanks while still looking at the bingo book in front of him, still ignoring Kushina and Mito, who had finally noticed Naruto there. Looking up, he also remembered something. "Also, Naruto, since you will be heading to Kumo after the alliance mission, would you also avoid Kiri, as it is in a war between the bloodline rebels and Kiri, okay? Also, I forgot to add, you may take one person to go along with you for both missions, okay?" said Minato looking up at Naruto. Sure, I could do that, said Naruto, already planning to assist the bloodline rebels on his way back to the village. Okay, this mission will be classified as an S-rank mission, so no telling anyone until the alliance is sorted. Understood. With a nod from Naruto, Minato allowed Naruto to leave the office. Once again being bombarded by both Kushina and Mito, Kushina asking if more shinobi should be sent instead, while Mito saying that her squad should go, in place of Naruto. Naruto's house. Hee Tayuya, you there? I got a mission and I wanted to know if you wanted to tag along, said Naruto out loud, waiting for Tayuya's reply. Hearing nothing, he shrugged and started to get his equipment sealed into his wrist. Hearing the front door open, Naruto glanced at the door to see Tayuya looking at him with shock before chucking the bingo book in her hand at his face, which, he dodged and blinked. What was that for? I didn't do anything, you evil redhead, said Naruto looking at Tayuya with a deadpan, although he was shocked at what he heard next. Can you train me seriously? Mr. Ultimate Shish, Anobi, said Tayuya with a slight grin on her face. She had seriously been shocked at his abilities. She had thought that he had been using his bloodlines for everything, especially after seeing his dujutsus, both Sharingan and Rinnegan. Sure, why not? So what will I need to bring? Asked Tayuya looking at Naruto with a tilt of her head. Damn, that was cute, Naruto inwardly spoke. Oh, you don't nay. To bring anything apart from spare cloths. I got all the survival stuff which I have in my storage seal on my wrist. Pulling his black sleeve up, he showed her a storage seal that had sat perfectly in the middle of his wrist. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to get my spare cloths then. I'll meet you at the front gate in a bit, said Tayuya, walking up the stairs and going into hers and Naruto's room. Shrugging, Naruto disappeared in a white flash. Front gates. Appearing at the front gates, Naruto saw something that had confused him to no end. There, standing at the front of the village walls, were hundreds of women who were probably kunoichi, all waiting in line to enter the village. Shrugging, he started to go to the enter and exiting booth and seeing Izumo and Kotetsu talking to a pair of kunoichi about something. Walking up to the four, he was about to speak before he heard a woman behind him scream out, Naruto Otsutsuki, I challenge you, and by Nadeshiko laws, if I win you must become my husband, but if you lose you die. So prepare yourself. Looking behind him, he saw a group of well-endowed women standing there challenging him. Blinking, he looked at them plainly before walking away to the entry booth. While walking, he gave his answer. Sorry, I can't be bothered, too busy. That had shocked every kunoichi there. He had ignored them in favor of doing his current business. That had made a few of him cry because they thought they weren't worth his time. Still walking through the crowd of women, he heard another voice speak up. Sorry, but you must fight me as you are the son of the Hokage, said a voice. Turning around, he saw who spoke. It was a girl. The girl was a fair-skinned girl of average height. She has green eyes and waist-length black hair in a Heim-style cut tied in a high ponytail, with short bangs and chin-length strands framing her face. Normally, she wears a light green kimono or a beige hooded robe when not battling. While on missions, she has a black forehead protector and wears her village's form-fitting kunoichi uniform. It is gray-colored with right shoulder guard, gray gloves, and opening in her shirt which reveals some of her sizable cleavage. Blinking at the girl, Naruto scratched his head and stared at her with a tilt of his head. Why do I have to fight you? Asked Naruto, still scratching his head at the girl. Simple. Jiraiya, the sage of Mount Myoboku, had foe. UGHT my grandmother due to being spotted in our village. The fight had ended as a draw, but the deal Jiraiya had made was that his student would fight her next daughter. However, my mother had not been able to find the Hokage before it was said that he had married already, and since you are the son of the Hokage, that match belongs to us now, so prepare for a fight now, said Shizuka, getting into a fighting position. Single quote ellipsis dot. You aren't leaving me alone if I don't fight, right? Seeing the nod, Naruto shook his head. Okay, how about this? In 2 weeks' time I will fight you in the Chunin exams stadium, okay? Because I really have to do my current mission, so I will fight you on a later date. Walking toward Izumo and Kotetsu and handing the paperwork of him leaving. He stood there with his arms wrapped up and waiting. A few minutes later, a confused Tayuya walked through the mass pile of kunoichi and finally reached Naruto. Shithead, do you know why there are hundreds of kunoichi here? Ked Tayuya, looking around them only to see the shocked faces of multiple kunoichi. Single quote ellipsis dot dot. I'll tell you on the way. With that, Naruto grabbed Tayuya by the sleeve and teleported to the seal on Omoi's arm, which he had place on during the Chunin exams, and with a white flash, he and Tayuya were gone. Azumo, looking towards the masked crowd of Kunoichi, couldn't help but chuckle a bit. Naruto sure as he LL has a lot of women after him, said Azumo, looking towards Kotetsu, who had simply nodded and started to fill out files allowing the women to enter Konoha. Well, at least Konoha won't be boring with him around, said Kotetsu, looking toward the sky. Chapter 15. Raw. Shut up Isobu, shouted Naruto as he threw another futon Reconnecting at the three-tailed Byuji, who he was currently battling. What was the reason for this? Well, to finally end the fourth Mizukaze's reign and free Kiri from the unneeded bloodshed that they were facing. Naruto, look out, screamed Mei, the leader of the bloodline rebels. Too late, as Naruto had been smashed through the ground by Isobu's tails. Yoden, melting apparition, shouted Mei as she had sprayed molten lava into Isobu's massive eye. The massive Byuji, seeing its target, quickly turned its head to the side, missing the lava and the flying Naruto, who had slammed his hand under the jaw of the Byuji. With that, a reassuring crack had been heard by everyone in the vicinity. RAAAAAAAAWWWWW. And with that, Isobu was sent high into the air. Naruto, seeing the chance, pulled out his time devil, throwing up the special bio kunai nar. Yuto went through two-hand sign before screaming out his next attack. Jikuken. Devil disruption. With that, the diagonally spinning kunai stopped midair and glowed, making every enemy shinobi fall to their knees as they had felt their chakra control go straight to hell. Seeing that everyone's chakra control from the Mizukage's side gone, Naruto started to gather up chakra in his hand, slowly forming a great spiraling ring Menma attack from Road to Ninja, which he had created a few weeks ago when he had tried to make a Byuji version of his Reconnecting. Seeing Isobu falling down, he jumped off the ground and held his great spiraling ring straight at the Byuji's stomach. Isobu, wake up! Using his blacklight dash ability, he went flying up even higher and faster. Soon a clap of tune could be heard, then a massive explosion right after it. The rain was pouring during the mighty clash. The bloodline rebels had given it their all, and had come out the winners. But even as they had won their own battles, there was the battle between the White Streak and the three-tailed Byuji, who was apparently named Isobu. Hey, look up in the sky, shouted a non-important shinobi who has noticed the explosion's dust move away. All the shinobi had sent chakra to their eyes to increase their eyesight by a little bit, as they didn't want to have their eyes explode due to the fact their eyes can't hold a lot of chakra. When the shinobi looked into the sky, they saw the blonde kid smashing his fists in a left-right-left fashion and sending shockwaves with each and every hit. They could also make out a pained scream from the Byuji while in between the punches of the white-haired kid. Finally, both Byuji and shinobi landed, causing a massive crater in the deserted battlefield that in the past hour had collected a large amount of dead bodies and environmental damage. Looking down into the crater, there he was, the god of shinobi, calmly walking out with the now likely dead fourth Mizuka on his shoulder in a fireman position. Everyone was quiet, until the man in front of them started to give a peace sign to the rest of them. At that, they finally realized something. They won. They won. They won. We won, screamed Mei as she held her fist up. Quickly, everyone there had also thrown their own fists up in joy, and they did it. They finally won. Now it was finally time to return home. This war will be always remembered, this war. Gergagaga. Every shinobi stopped their inner monologue and looked toward the source of the sound. Naruto's stomach. Aha. Ha. Sorry, said Naruto, rubbing the back of his head as he stared at the hundreds of shinobi who were still looking at him. Although that had ended when another grumble was heard. Looking towards the source, they foo. Their leader made Terumi standing there blushing up a storm as she held her stomach. Now that Naruto had gotten a proper look at her, he instantly thought of the word beautiful, as she was just the definition, and then also add her name, which had meant shining beauty. Mei Terumi was truly a goddess. She has green eyes, and ankle length, auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and two are long, crossing each other on her bust, just below her chin. What? Snapped May as she saw that everyone had looked at her. She can get hungry too, assholes. What y'all looking at me for? I'm hungry. I just had fought a war for the better part of 3 to 5 years and I want to take a relaxing shower and eat. That so much for me? Asked May, looking at all her shinobi with a smile on her face and a twitching eyebrow. At that, everyone shut up, even Naruto's stomach. Naruto couldn't help but grin at this. It was hilarious, until he grabbed his head in pain. May, noticing Naruto's current situation, rushed over to him and put his arm around her neck. Lifting him up a bit, she started to talk. Are you okay, Naruto? Asked May with a bit of worry. This Bono man was the reason why they had been able to win without much casualties and attack earlier than planned, 3 years earlier. And nothing, just my Kajibushin finally dispelled because of Kumo's council session. What annoys me is that he placed a time devil marker there and I have to go now or I will be screwed later on. It also doesn't help when he shouts out, "Screw this, you old bastards. I am making the boss suffer himself." Then he had snapped his own neck. Man, I know how to die in style, said Naruto, laughing a bit to him. Which had been followed by May. Soon the laughing began to increase in volume, until they, Naruto and May, were on the floor with each other still clinging to the other. Ha 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 ha, oh god, that was hilarious. But I got to really go, May. Chan, I'll see ya in a few days. I got to get the Kumo treaty set up and also. Here, standing up and pulling May with him, he handed her one of his time devil kunai and gave a quick wink before disappearing with a white spark. May grinned to herself, only knowing Naruto 3 days and this happened. Maybe she could secure an alliance with the Hokage with something special to make it a permanent alliance. Kukukukuao, let's rebuild the village, said May with a tiny evil smirk on her beautiful face. Oh yes, she knew what she could do to make the Hokage want an alliance. Hi, but we could have defeated the 4th Mizukage without the white-haired brat, said Ao with his arms crossed while closing both eyes and nodding. Until he opened his eyes to see May right in front of him. Ow, shut up or I will kill you, said May with a creepy grin on her face, which had caused Ao to sweat and start to move to do his new job. Kumo council room. Where is that white-haired brat? The little shit had made a Kajibushin to go to this meeting. He deserves to be punished, said one of the elders of the council as he still ranting about being CKED by a Kajibushin that was until a white spark appeared in the room. Yo, sorry I was late, I was fighting the 3-tailed Buji and Jinchuriki and then I was talking to a goddess, said Naruto with a bored look on his face while whipping his hand from side to side. Konoha Training Ground 7. Kakashi, teach me your Chidori. The Dobi humiliated me. I deserve redemption, shouted Sasuke while Ying to look threatening to the half-asleep Kakashi. Suddenly Kakashi stiffened. Then a tear escaped his eye. Someone out there in the world was channeling him. He would find that person and Rex to be his master and then train them into becoming like himself. Strong, lazy, a pervert, cool-looking and then hip and cool. With that done, he went back to falling asleep while listening to Sasuke. Konoha Hokage Training Ground. I can't do this mumbo jumbo. Why would I need to learn how to write seals? I want the time devil. Get me that loser's jutsu, shouted Mito at Minato. All she wanted as the jutsu that Naruto had learned and then be better at it than him. Why would she need to know seals? It's a jutsu. Sigh, this is taking forever, thought Minato as he was watching Mito complain about how seals were useless, and that she was too good for them. What had disappointed Minato was the fact that Mito had 0% natural ability for Fuinjutsu and she just doesn't sit still long enough to do the basic Fuinjutsu training. Mito, I can't give you the time devil because I don't know it. Hell, I don't think anyone would know it except for Naruto, who had created the technique with seals, said Minato in a slow voice, making sure Mito understood. If she was a prodigy like Sasuke, was Naruto a prodigy that would be better than both Itachi and Shisui put together? Oh, and now Mito was getting Kushina to tell him to teach the time devil to her. This sucks. Kumo council room. Boy, that was the biggest load of shit I have heard all my life. Next time is on time and in person or we will kill you, said the elder from before. Okay, sorry about the Kajibushin and all, but quick question, where's Tayuya? Asked Naruto, looking both left and right only to feel something touching his back. Erring around and seeing Tayuya behind him, he let out a girlish shriek. "I!" screamed Naruto while clinging to the ceiling while looking at Tayuya from up the ceiling. "Please don't kill me. I'm so sorry I left you behind. But I had to fight a war and all that jazz, so please don't kill me, please almighty Tayuya," screamed Naruto. From the ceiling, Tayuya couldn't help but grin at this as openly admitting that she was scarier than anything he had ever seen, deciding to play along with this. She had made her demands. "What I want is..." Chapter 16, Kumo. "Can I just let you beat me up instead?" "No, please. No, I'll teach you ninpo." "What the fuck is ninpo? Some shitty technique, I bet, shithead. I'll give you my wallet if you let me leave." Tayuya, who finally had enough of Naruto's begging, turned around, only to sweat drop and see why Naruto was begging. There stood Naruto. Well, his legs anyway, since from stomach up, there was massive amount of bags being carried in front of him. But what made her sweat drop grow even more was the fact that he had 5 cage bushins all carrying the same amount of boxes, which had went from his stomach to 5 meters into the air. "Shithead, how much stuff did I buy?" asked Tayuya as she saw the boxes start to sway due to the wind. "Enough to fill all my storage scrolls that I had on me and the ones I had made on the way," replied Naruto, who had activated his Rinnegan to see where he was going. Tayuya, looking at that massive amount, started to lightly laugh in her hand, while she probably made him lose quite a bit of money. His poor Gama-chan, she wanted to go to one stop that would make Naruto, if he could see, blush like a little kid. Grinning to herself, she started to walk into a shop with Naruto and his clones still following her. "Okay, so I want to try on some more clothing. Okay. You will probably need to tell me if it's good or not, shithead, got that?" asked Tayuya with a little bit of excitement in her voice. That had scared the shit out of Naruto. Tayuya never gets excited unless she beat him up, or he bought her something. A few minutes later we find Naruto still waiting for Tayuya in the showing room. For some reason didn't let anyone who was in the room see into it. I mean, it's not like she's going to be naked or something. It's just cloths. "Hey shithead, you ready?" asked Tayuya with a mischievous tone. That sent shivers up his spine. Maybe he should just leave his wallet and flash back to Kiri. Bet that May would need a helping hand to speed up the rebuilding. Why did he get a shiver from her name as well? Too late to run. Tayuya is opening the thin layer of sheets. The next few moments would forever be implanted to Naruto's brain. There stood Tayuya with her gorgeous body out for show, with red and black bra and panties with sleek crimson leggings. He will never admit his Sharingan had activated to keep that sight in his head forever. "So, what do you think, shithead?" "Amazing," smirked Tayuya as she had done a pose that was showing most of her body off for Naruto. "Da ba wa," said Naruto before spraying blood from his nose as he passes out while also holding a pervertive grin on his face. Smirking at him, Tayuya got her clothing and bought a few sets. Changing into her new regular cloths, she commanded one of Naruto's bushin to carry the original's workload and teleport them to Konoha. As the meeting went without anything happening, although Naruto had spoken to both Bee and Yugito, the 8 Tails and 2 Tails Jinchuriki respectively, about how their Buji were. He also talked to Samui a bit, which had irked her for some strange reason. Soon she saw a Kajibushin walk up to them both, looking at his creator for a second, then shrugging he grabbed both tayuya and Naruto and disappeared in a white flash, while also dropping over 50,000 yen. The store owner thought that Christmas had come early. Konoha, Naruto's house. "Yua, where the hell am I?" mumbled Naruto as he tried to lift his head and body up only to feel that his body was being pressed onto. Looking down he saw Tayuya. She was peacefully sleeping with her crimson hair all sprawled around them like a big blanket. Looking at Tayuya he couldn't help but smirk as he saw a trail of saliva running down her mouth, until he noticed that she was drooling on him. Ha ha ha, this brought him back to the first few weeks of when he had met Tayuya. Flashback week 1. "Fuck you asshole, I don't care if you beat Orochimaru. I am not going to sleep in the quest room. Or I don't want to share the main room with you," shouted Tayuya as she looked at Naruto with a glare. The white-haired asshole was stubborn. Twitch, twitch, and I said that I wasn't going to sleep on the couch. Ya got that. I put time and effort in that room with Sat. With Satsuki. Daden. Toki. Said Naruto looking toward the ground when he mentioned his two exes. That was still fresh in his head and heart. Oh right, the two who screwed the Uchiha and Inuzuka heirs. So how does that feel, huh? Must hurt, don't it? Said Tayuya with anger in her voice as she was wasting her time with the shithead. Sleep on the ground for all I care. With that, Naruto walked up into the bed areas and slammed shut his main bedroom door, which had shaken the whole house. Oi, shithead, let me in, I want to sleep, goddamn it, shouted Tayuya as she had went to the main room and started to bang on the door. A few minutes later she had fallen asleep on the ground, which the door to Naruto's bedroom opened up. Soon she was dragged inside and placed under the bed's covers. Naruto could only look at the girl he was with and instantly couldn't help but give a small smile. While she was full-mouthed, she was also brash like he was when he was really young. Naruto kept on looking around her body before he came across Orochimaru's curse seal. Turning his Sharingan on, he copied the entire seal to his memory, and with that, he went upstairs to make a counter seal. Week2. What did you just say, shithead? I am not over-reliant on genjutsu, screamed Tayuya as she got up and in front of Naruto's face. This asshole said that she was too reliant on genjutsu. Bullshit. You are. How about a genjutsu battle to prove it? If I win, I get to train you in both taijutsu and ninjutsu. If you win, you get to go shopping without a price limit. Now Tayuya was grinning. She had seen his wallet, which in her case was hilarious, and saw the storage seal at the bottom of the thing, and after seeing Naruto's house and furniture, she bet he would have quite a lot to spend. Sticking her hand out, which Naruto shook, both she and Naruto walked to the opposite ends. Tayuya quickly brought out her flute and started to play. After the whole song ended, she looked at Naruto and gaped. He didn't get affected at all. What the fuck was the shithead doing? Quickly starting up a new song, she continued to play and play and play. This is not fucking possible. Tayuya said to herself as she endlessly kept on playing song after song. What's worse is that he doesn't have his Sharingan on to see through it. It was purely him. Suddenly Naruto started to talk. You know that you're in a genjutsu, right? I mean, I placed it on you for the past half an hour, said Naruto as he broke the illusion around Tayuya so that she could look around. When she did, she was shocked to see she was in Naruto's bed with Naruto holding 3 Tomo ink-like marks. Reaching her hand to her neck, she felt something else. It was like the symbol on some of Naruto's old cloths, biohazard symbol. What did you do to me? Whimpered Tayuya as she was looking at the white-haired man in front of her. As he was able to take away the curse sea and place a new one, she was dead. Well, I took Orochi Tem's seal off, and since I figured out that the seal allows you to use a corrupted sage mode, I thought, why don't I let you try a clean sage mode, although I don't know what your transformation will be. Though why not? Also, don't worry about a torture seal, I didn't put any seal except a nature seal, so yeah, have fun. With that, Naruto walked out of the room and went downstairs to eat. Week3. Damn it, shithead. I can't keep up, slow down, screamed Tayuya as she was holding for dear life on Naruto as he was running at his top speed. They had already went around elemental nations in an hour, and that was by going around the thing, and now Naruto wants to go straight through it. Just time, devil is home please, begged Tayuya as she was laterally wrapped around him still in her bed cloths as Naruto decided to bring her on his daily jog, that ass. Opening her eyes, she saw a massive buffet and Naruto sitting across from her with a grin. What? Asked Tayuya, looking at the large amount of food there, then looking at Naruto, then at the food again, before shrugging and eating. Looking up at the table to grab some more food, she was shocked to see a cake. A cake with writing on it, "Happy birthday Tayuya." Hugh choking on food and gaping. Seeing this, Naruto teleported behind her and lightly pat her back. He was getting used to his strength and speed. How did you know? Asked Tayuya, looking at Naruto with some tears slowly going out of her eyes. Smiling lightly, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle and give an eye smile. Because what old I be if I couldn't remember my friend's birthday, said Naruto with the smile still on his face. Bu, but I didn't mention my birthday, said Tayuya, still looking at the cake. It was a mud cake. How in the hell did he know she liked them, stalker? You sleep talk, said Naruto simply. It was hilarious what she sometimes said. The best was, I like to roll around on grass while eating mudcake. He couldn't help but move to his study, activate his silencing seals and laugh his head off. While Naruto was laughing his head off, Tayuya was looking at the cake. It was the best time of her life in like ever. Few weeks later. Come on Tayuya, it will be fun. You're starting to get grouchy, said Naruto poking Tayuya in the cheek, as he wanted her to wake up and go with him. Tayuya still as asleep and dreaming only mumbled out a few words that had shocked him to the core. Akane, annoy your father, okay, he's the time devil, so you could annoy him for ages, said Tayuya while snuggling more into her pillow. If she would have had seen Naruto's face just then, she would be shocked. There stood Naruto Otsutsuki, crying, while holding a smile on his face. While he looked down to Tayuya, she just really said that. But, just to make sure, Naruto used his time devil to travel back in time by a few seconds and managed to catch what Tayuya said. Akane, annoy your father, okay, he's the time devil, so you could annoy him for ages. Then once again he watched as Tayuya snuggled back into her pillow. This time Naruto couldn't help but sob a little. Tayuya, his friend, dreamed of both him and her together, and by the sound of it, having a kid. Any pain of both Satsuki and Toki just then broke and the love of Tayuya grew. While he liked her a lot, this just shoved the like away and replaced it with love. He swears right now, nothing will ever hurt Tayuya ever again, and if someone does hurt Tayuya somehow, they better hope he doesn't go blacklight on their ass. Flashback end. Single quote. I will always protect and defend you Tayuya. No matter what, even if I have to sell my soul. As long as you're safe, I can live happy. And if we make it long enough, we will meet Akane in person. With that Naruto went back to sleep, wrapping his arms around Tayuya's still form and snuggling closer to her. If only he looked at her face a bit longer, he would have noticed the red hue on her face. Chapter 17. Valley of the End. Sasuke and Satsuki Uchiha. Return to the village or I will use force, said Naruto with a stern tone as he looked on to see both Sasuke, the guy who had hurt him through emotional hell, and Satsuki, his ex-girlfriend and likely lover, the one who the pain revolved around, or at least one part of it. But he is now over it and he will use force. Try to make us doby. You couldn't have beaten me on purpose, it was all accident. So come and face me and die, shouted Sasuke, who was in his cursed seal form level 1. He had gotten information on it from Tayuya. You are nothing but a waste of space, screamed Satsuki as she started to dash towards him. Single quote ellipsis ... So be it. With that, Naruto disappeared before both Sasuke's and Satsuki's eyes. Gah! Screamed Sasuke, who had been kneed to the gut. Although his screams were stopped when Naruto's knee threw him up into the air a little bit, soon a leg snapped up straight and hit him in the face, sending him up into the air. Naruto, still looking at where Sasuke was previously standing, turned his head a little to look at Satsuki. There Satsuki stood, with Curse Seal level 2 activated and her 3 Tomo Sharingan glaring at him. She looked like a she-devil, white horns on her head, with Inuzuka marks going down her cheeks. She also had grown black wings, High School of DxD Fallen Angel wings, don't own. Before I kick your ass and then Sasuke's some more. Why did you cheat on me? Asked Naruto, staring blankly at Satsuki, who started to send more chakra into her eyes, trying desperately to activate He Mangekyo so that she could destroy him, before she started to laugh. Oh, so that's the question you were wondering, right? Well, you weren't worthy of my effort and affection, Toki. I have no clue, Oop, you were a useless dead last who was only good at putting a shitty little roof over my and Toki's head. But that all changed when I told Sasuke I was an Uchiha. He would practically die if I wasn't there with him. But then you came into the equation, you stopped me from being with Sasuke, said Satsuki with anger apparent in her voice, only to see Naruto's twitching eyebrow. You, seriously, thought that playing with my heart would have been better than saying that you liked Sasuke and not me? Are you fucking dumb, you stupid Uchiha? You and 3/4 of your clan are total fuckwits. Oh, let's just screw with someone's heart. I don't have the confidence to tell him, hey, I don't like you and I liked Sasuke, so yeah, later, you fucking dumb shit. With that, Naruto dashed behind Satsuki and kicked her in the rib. sending her flying towards Madara's statue. Quickly teleporting in Satsuki's path, he unleashed a furious right hook sending her towards Hashirama's statue before once Agai. Teleporting to Satsuki and doing a heel kick, sending her spiraling down at Mach 2 speeds. Appearing on the lake, Naruto aimed a spin kick that sent Satsuki onto the rocky surface completely knocked out. This had changed her back to her normal unsealed curse seal form. Looking toward Madara's statue, he saw Sasuke with a Chidori charged up in his hand, although it looked like Sasuke had also went curse seal level 2. Due to his skin being darkened purplish thing and with 2 massive wings on his back, on his nose he also had a blue start spread throughout it. And is he wearing lipstick? Okay, Orochimaru was a gay. Who makes a seal that makes others look like she males? Dobi, I will kill you and then I will take Satsuki on top of your cold dead body. This is for stealing those precious eyes. With that, Sasuke led a war scream while jumping toward Naruto, who had charged up a futon Rasengan in his right hand. Well, that's pretty graphic, Sasuke. Guess I will have to teach you a lesson. But just to piss you off, said Naruto, turning his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan on and looking at Sasuke, who had put even more chakra into his Chidori, was plummeting down toward Naruto. Ya no, Sasuke, you're weak. And with that, Naruto teleported next to Sasuke and plunged his futon Rasengan right into his back. Sasuke could only feel an unimaginable pain in his back. The only thing he could truly tell was that the attack hadn't hit his spine or any other bone. His wings, however, were ripped apart. Looking forward, he saw the mountain face. This is going to hurt. Naruto glided to Hashirama's statue and watched as Sasuke barreled into the mountain. It looked cool. Oh well, mission accomplished, I guess. With that, Naruto jumped down and grabbed both Sasuke and Satsuki by the scruff of their shirts. With a quick sigh, Naruto time-deviled back to Konoha, missing a Sharingan eye glowing in the treetops. Konoha front gates. Minato was growing restless. He had sent Naruto after both Sasuke and Satsuki after getting a message that Itachi had been attacked by his own brother. The reason for that was Sasuke wanting the Mangekyo, and in his words, I deserve them, you are but a pacifist loser. After Itachi defeated Sasuke, he quickly ran off and told his clan what Sasuke was trying to achieve and how to achieve it. However, that had backfired as soon as the information on exactly how to get and unlock the Mangekyo. Although they know what the Mangekyo is, they don't know how to gain it. Until now, Uchihas started to kill all those who they were close to, hoping to gain the Mangekyo, thus the Uchiha massacre. There was only a fifth of what the original amount of clan members there were, and nearly all of them didn't unlock the Mangekyo. The only people who had were Shisui, Itachi and Makoto Uchiha. Shisui got his when he saw an Uchiha stab his father right through the heart. Itachi got his by killing 2 cousins at the age of 14 trying to gain the Mangekyo for themselves. And Makoto gained hers when she killed her husband Fugaku when he tried to kill her. Overall, it was a mess. Looking at Kushina through the corner of his eye, he saw she was holding on to Makoto as she wept. However, he stopped looking at them when a flash had hit his eyes. There, standing in front of him, was Naruto Otsutsuki, carrying both Sasuke Uchiha and Satsuki Uchiha. Looking toward Tsunade, he sent her after the Uchihas. Tsunade, getting the signal, walked up to Naruto and grabbed both Uchiha onto her shoulders and placed them on stretchers, which have a full medical team surrounding them. Quickly walking up to Minato. Both Tsunade and Minato looked at Naruto, who was just standing there with a look of boredom and his arms crossed. Walking closer to him, Minato was about to say so. Mething when a red bullet smashed into Naruto and sent him and the red bullet flying. Blinking, Minato looked toward where the red and white streak had landed and gaped. This also happened to Tsunade. She was looking over Minato's shoulder. There was Naruto Otsutsuki with tayuya. Otsutsuki, as she liked being called since she was living with Naruto, but what made him gape was not the fact tayuya could move that fast. No, it was what position both Naruto and tayuya were in. At this moment he felt a little pain when looking at his ex-son. There both Naruto and tayuya were making out while holding onto one another. He would now forever miss seeing his son grow. At least he had his daughter. However, he was broken out of his inner monologue by tayuya. Damn it, Naruto. Why did you leave me before I could finish cooking? I mean, sure, I can cook a little, but it's more fun with you there. said Tayuya looking at Naruto once their makeout session had ended. At that question Naruto started to sweat. He knew Tayuya couldn't cook when he first met her, and that was proven when she set water on fire. Then the fire on fire. It was hilarious, until she demanded him to teach her cooking, and while it was not as good as his, it was okay in his books, but the problem was she wanted to become the best at cooking, and thus forced him to help her every time she was cooking. Hey, don't blame me, blame the kid with the duck-ass haircut and his girlfriend. And if that doesn't work, blame the Hokage's rank my ass. The sound for Kimimaro joined them was piss. I mean, they all decided to try block me one by one. Then Sasuke and Satsuki went curse seal level 2 and were at best only B ranks. It was way too easy, said Naruto while waving his hands around to add effect to his point. Minato could only look at Naruto. He thought that S rank was too easy. What was this kid? Tsunade couldn't help but have a similar thought about the kid. First he pops out from the academy the dead last, then AF. Chair fighting Mizuki, he was a freaking god. That was proven when he showed his Sharingan, Rinnegan and Time Devil, but still, how does he have the Sharingan or the Rinnegan? She knew Minato and Kushina don't have any Uchiha relative, and if Naruto got it from birth, then shouldn't Mito? Thinking back to the Chunin exams, she remembers him saying something about being an Uchiha, Uzumaki and Senju. She will need to know more later on. And like Minato, she was interrupted from her inner monologue by Tayuya. Damn it, Naruto. You should have just time deviled to their location, since you can reach about a full Konoha radius. Damn it, Yubaka, you just didn't want my cooking, isn't that right? Said Tayuya with her hair splitting into 9 tail-like things, when Minato saw that he darted his eyes to both Kushina and Tayuya with fear. Oh god, another Kushina. He prays that Naruto will survive after the council meeting that was needed. No, seriously Tayuya-chan, I couldn't help you cooking because of the mission, please believe me. Said Naruto with anime tears going down his face, while looking at Tayuya, who, at that moment was holding a large smile on her face. Fine, I will believe you. If you cook ramen tonight, okay. That was something that Naruto liked about Tayuya. She liked ramen as much as him. Yes, of course, almighty Tayuya, I will do anything for your forgiveness, said Naruto bowing down low so that Tayuya couldn't see his grin. Tayuya, looking at Naruto for a bit, just shrugged, then placed a kiss on his covered forehead. Okay, but I want dinner at 7 p.m. okay? No later. And with her piece said, she looked towards the fourth Hokage, who was choking on his own saliva at how similar Kushina and Tayuya were. Seeing fingers click in front of his face, Minato looked toward Tsunade, who was nodding her head toward Naruto. Understanding, he thanked her with a slight nod. Naruto Otsutsuki, I along with the council request that you attend a meeting now, as it will affect you, although I would suggest that you bring Tayuya with you. Seeing a nod from Naruto, he and Tsunade appeared in the council room with Naruto and Tayuya already there, seeing as all the shinobi, civilian and elder council ready for the meeting to start. Okay, the meeting will commence now. Naruto Otsutsuki, you are to be voted on for the Clan Restoration Act, as you have shown that you possess 2 of the great 3 dujutsus. With that said, Minato looking toward the white-haired child and his red-head friend. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.